I'm good. How are y'all?
Thank you. Good.
Doing good. Doing very well.
Great to hear.
Man, I have allergies today.
Yeah. I had mine yesterday was bad for me.
Hey, Christopher. Hi, Titus. Hello, Martin.
Hey, Chef.
Hello.
Morning,
How are
Jeff.
you today?
Good. How about you?
Very good. It is a beautiful morning. Nice days. Joe, you live in Austin, Joe? Yes? Okay, good. How are you, Rebecca?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Ooh. Larry, you got lemongrass growing?
Yes, Chef.
Oh man, I love good lemongrass, man. I like putting it in salad or in soups and stuff.
Yeah, I want to try it in teas and stuff. I was looking up different recipes for lemongrass, and I saw that it was good for soups and tea. So I want to drink it in a
Yeah.
tea with them.
In my country, we use a lot of lemongrass for teas because it's good for the digestion, and it boosts your immune system. It's like almost like ginger.
Really, I
So
didn't know that.
yeah, so when you don't feel good and you can a little weak, you can get a little ginger and lemongrass tea, and it's a whoo.
See, I usually like when I have some issues with my chemo, like I chew on some ginger, like a little bit to help soothe my stomach. I'm gonna try the
Yeah.
lemongrass too.
Lemongrass and ginger. It's really said better than because they said the chamomile do that, but ginger and lemongrass do better.
Nice.
You know, they said it's good for your dogs to chew on lemongrass if they have stomach problems too.
You know what? My dog loves. We have a neighbor that has lemongrass, and my dog eats it all the time.
And you know what? Flies don't like lemongrass too. So
And mosquitoes.
the mosquitoes get away.
Yeah, it's good mosquito repellent too. That's awesome, man. You have like a decent sized garden, or do you have a little garden, Larry?
Yeah, I got a little something going on, you know.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I got some okra, some cherry tomatoes.
Wow.
I had some green beans. I got some basil. I got what is it, zucchini squash coming up. I have
Oh, nice.
mustard coming up.
Wow, that's amazing.
I have
We tried to grow green beans. The plant comes up. I think we planted so late. We never have flowers. We never have green beans until the plant just died with the heat. That was it.
that's how my green bean is. It came up real nice. It just, I don't know, it didn't produce real well. It was a huge plant, but it just didn't produce well.
Morning,
You
chef.
know, I wish I had a green thumb. I wish I had a green thumb. I've got the brown thumb. I kill pretty much everything.
Oh my God, that's happened to me, Chef. I used
Ah,
to have
man.
such a when I used to live in my country, I was so good to because I was adapted to that, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
I came to America and I cannot grow anything.
You know, I either overwater it or underwater it, or
The thing
I
is,
don't know what I do.
the soil in Texas is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. I also have lettuce growing, lettuce and carrots.
Oh, wow.
Let's go.
Where do you live?
Oh, I'm currently living out South Austin.
Oh, really?
And you know what?
Hey, man.
Kale
South
goes grows so good here and resist the heat, resist the cold weather.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Now, Richard, you put on the chat, did we have any homework last night? No. But we have homework for Friday, and that is to do. Actually, we need to make sure you do your quizzes. Those the check your knowledge quizzes,
Yes.
and then you also need to give us a name of your restaurant. Name of your restaurant, the what do you call it? The mission statement, and name a restaurant, mission statement, and what else am I missing, Chef?
Concept.
Concept. Thank
Concept,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. What kind of restaurant are you wanting to do?
We
Lauren,
have three knowledge checks for this week that you have to complete, guys. So don't forget.
Lauren wrote, Chef Pablo, did you get her documents last night?
Who write that, Chef?
And let me make sure I didn't get it.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna check it today, and I return in the mail saying I received it. Okay, all the people that send me the information.
And
So
okay, cool.
Thanks for sharing with me, guys. It's and I've been watching and yeah, you're making that's you get the letter, you get the point. So I'm gonna post some of the best so tomorrow you can see it. And you know what I enjoy so much was with the with the job aids. Some of those were so great, you know. I'm gonna post it so you can see it too.
Quick question: when we send in these homework pages, do we send them to both you and Chef?
Yeah, that's ready to share with us.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's fine. I,
Okay, no problem.
And if not, I usually try to forward it. You know, if you send it to me, I usually forward it to Chef Pablo anyway. Just so he
Okay,
can
well, I'll just make sure to just share it with both y'all at the same time.
rock and roll.
Yes, sir.
I like to read it. I love to read. I love to read things.
Oh, I do too. Hey, Lauren, what kind of cat, or what was your cat's name?
So I actually have 5 cats, but this cat's name is
Wow.
Noodle. Yeah, I kind of do like a cat sanctuary kind of thing.
That's awesome.
So sometimes I foster them and then they just don't get adopted and then I just keep them. I have a really big house, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's good.
that's the cat that was jumping yesterday.
No, that's this one right here. This is Bam, and he's ginormous, and he actually has
Oh, look at him.
cancer,
Oh, wow.
and he's going through chemo right now.
Oh. So
Back, four different black cats, and every single one of them was Dracula 1, Dracula 2, and Dracula 3.
I like that.
I tend to name my animals after food.
After food.
Nice.
yeah, like I had the same happened with me when I have my children. This is what's the name that you're gonna put to your children that I have to see? I don't know. I have to see the face when they're born. I don't want to put, you know, a guy who with a face of John, put it Martin, you know, I have to put it John.
Mhm.
I had
Everybody
a
was
lot of
making.
name regret with my son, but he grew into it, so it's all good.
That's literally my biggest fear is for my mom to say that she kind of regrets my name.
So we're going to start, guys. First of all, thanks for coming. You know, we have this great appreciation, guys, that you are committed to this class, even that, you know, I have this strong accent, and I hope you everybody understand me when I speak. But you know, we really, really, really feel grateful for that, and the response has been, you know, just impressive, just amazing. So thank you for that, guys.
I agree. I second that. You know, it's nice to joke around and have fun and all of that, and y'all are an amazing group.
Yes, 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 and you know,
I can't wait to see all of y'all in person.
oh yes, and the participation has been amazing of everybody, you know, and when we know that it's hard to be sitting, you know, for 5 hours hearing somebody and keep with the attention. So thank you so much. You try to make it understand. We try to make it interesting, these things, and I hope you find interesting, and I hope you learn something from these classes. And so today, guys, we are in day 9 of 29 days. And today we're going to talk about the stress and conflict resolution. And this class, you know, is going to deeply hit my heart since it affects me particularly, and I can talk about my experience with the stress and how it deals. And there is it's been devastated in this industry. And so we're gonna see some movies about that. And you know, I'm personally, guys, let me tell you, I'm a survivor. You know, and it's just amazing that I survive these times of huge depression and stress that I suffer, you know, with a big intent to kill myself. So that was really bad, you know. That was 25 years ago, and I really feel grateful, and I feel strong about myself, that I have the strongness and I have the courage to talk about, and then I have the courage to survive and keep going on. That many people don't. So, and we want to talk about that. So that's an interesting topic for today, and I hope we encourage you to put attention, and when if it happens to you, just go and talk about it.
For
So
sure.
yesterday, guys, let's get to a little recap of what happened yesterday. We talked about motivation and communication. I think it was important, and it's so important because you know that 75% of the workforce it is disengaged. So my question is, why you think that we have so much disengaged in the workforce in America, guys? It's a system problem. It's a systemic problem, but why?
Miscommunication, maybe.
Sorry, I couldn't
I think
hear
he
you.
said miscommunication.
Miscommunication. Yeah, miscommunication is one point. Yeah.
Is that what you said?
There's outside factors that can also lead
A lo-
into it.
Like what, as example?
People's kids or people's other, and maybe they have a second job.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a big thing, you know. Like what Bella illustrated us today. I think it's a big, huge impact on the workforce. And this is, guys, that in my generation, they told us, you know, you go to the university, you finish high school, you go to college, you get a degree, and you get a job, and you get that job, and you're going to grow in that job, and you're going to retire from that job, isn't it? So now, modern days, what happened is, you know, you graduate and it's not enough. That's not going to give you any job. And then maybe to survive, you need to have 1 or 2 or 3 jobs. And then not only that, you're not going to finish on the job that you started. You're going to start moving because the mobility in America on jobs, it's huge. So it's kind of insane, but it's what happened. And that also caused a lot of stress on people. Yes. So what else, guys? What else you think that disengage Americans on jobs?
No motivation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I says. Why there's no motivation?
Empty promises.
Empty promises. That's completely true. They promise something, you know, and that's not delivered. And that comes from the top to the lowest level, you know. That comes from the government to the jobs, you know, to the local places, and it's a big disengagement. Yes. What do you think, James?
For me, it was usually like poor management, like just kind of like said they didn't have good management style, so it kind of pushed me away from the job a little bit.
A lack of leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm agree with you.
Yeah.
And what about? I would like to get the. What do you think, Byron?
Maybe salary to pay.
Yeah, the salaries are not good, isn't it? That also disengage, especially there's a lot of disengaging, especially in the people who is paying hourly, isn't it? Because they don't have, you know, a a constant amount of money that are coming to their pockets. One day yes, one day high, one day no. That causes a lot of stress, isn't it? Yes. What about you? What about you think, Bella?
About what causes stress on people?
Yes, exactly.
Maybe also like negative reinforcement from managers. If they're not giving you positive feedback and only telling you what you're doing wrong, that causes people to lose motivation too.
Yes, so there's a lot of companies, that you still thinking that workforce is kind of a tyranny, isn't it? We are make us feel like we are slaves, and they're gonna be behind, with with punishing, trying to move at punishing, and that was something that when the first economists thinkers on 200 years ago to start writing about this, guys. This is amazing. They were thinking, that humans, when God creates humans, God creates humans freedoms. Because of that, humans hate to work. It's not on their nature. It's not on the nature of human beings work. And because it's not on the nature of human work, you have to obligate them to work. And that was the philosophy of, those Smith and many others, there was in the past writing about that. So they says the work has to be enforced to work through policies, and punishing. And since those first guys that start writing that, we learned that that's completely wrong, that what happened is we don't like to do things that we don't know. And on the opposite sides, we love to do things that we are good to do it, isn't it? So more that we know something, we love to do it. So the point is, how would we engage in a point that that person that gets to work love what he's doing? So we have to develop a culture that encourages that. Yeah, great, guys. So the other question is, guys, what inspired motivation? What inspired motivation? Let's talk about Haley.
Sorry, I'm writing notes still. What was the question?
The question is, what inspired motivation in people?
Will to actually want to do it, or if somebody says that you can't do it and then you're like inspired to do it.
Yeah,
That's what I did with my last profession.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you think, Joshua?
That's a good point, because once somebody tells you can't do something, that puts it in your mind that you're going to do it that much even harder.
Yeah. Bella, what inspired motivation?
Besides being good at what you do, and your managers also giving you reason to keep being good at what you do, I guess, positive reinforcement, like I said.
Yeah. What about you, Trinity? What do you think? Hello, Trinity, are you there?
I'll message her.
She's writing in the chat.
No, but I will message her.
So, what about Mina? What do you think about how we can inspire motivation?
With incentives and opportunity of promotion.
Yeah, that's for sure, isn't it? So if we want, guys, people motivated in jobs, isn't it? We need to inspire people. We need to be sure that these people want to come to work every day. What do you think, Avery?
Willpower, Avery wrote.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of like incentives and positive feedback from the actual management and the environment combined with the person's own willing and like kind of own motivation themselves to want to keep going, their own willpower.
Yeah. So we have to create a culture, isn't it? First, that respect the individuals, that take care of them, that respond to the desires of the people at work, like to desire to grow, the desire of be well treated and respected, the desire of be well paid, all these things. It's what creates a culture around those things. So you create a cultures about those desires of the individuals that work with you, and when they fulfill those things, the people are going to feel good about it, isn't it? And if they could feel good about it, they start working better. So workforce is the most important part of a company, and if you have to take good care of them, they take good care of you. That will be the scale, isn't it? The two things, if you push them, they go down. Your productivity is going to get down, isn't it? It has to maintain the balance in a good way. You have to treat people well. Yeah. And one of the things that you can do that is having good channels of communication. First thing, they need to know what to do. People need exactly know what to do, isn't it? So there's a lot of things that we talk about. That is first, training. Second, orientation in the company. Be sure that people know what to do in the company. We have handbooks normally, what they give you with all the responsibilities that you need to have and all that, so you know exactly what's the framework where you're working in, and all the idea of promotions. Keep open ears to the ideas that people come with. Uh,
But I say,
yes.
sit down. Go sit down.
Um,
Go sit down.
we're able to fix conflicts in the first place, and that kind of things. It's what create this culture of respect and happiness into the company. So yeah, that's something that's something that we have to think and offer. Sometimes people here in America think, oh, but there's no, at the beginning I cannot do that, because we are losing money, and that means doing all these things is money. And if I have to start a business, I cannot do that because it's money. So if you don't do that, you're going to suffer, because you're not going to have sales. You're not going to have your customers don't going to have a experience. So it's kind of a bad excuse for bad managers or owners, that they put the car in front of the horses, isn't it? So you cannot do that. Any kind of comments about our yesterday class, guys, that you have to finish framing?
And I'm doing oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Sorry, Chef.
So you think it was interesting that you learned something about motivation yesterday that is important? It was yes? Thumbs
Yes.
up? Good.
Yes.
So guys, today I'm going to talk about, I know that there's a lot of people here on the panel that haven't worked in the kitchen before. So I'm going to give you, can you see the screen, guys, or not?
No, we cannot.
Okay. Sorry, Jeff. So this is our day 8 of motivation and communication. And what I'm going to talk at the beginning of the class, guys, is make you understand how kitchens works. And this is for a lot of you guys that you're gonna work in the kitchen for first time. You really need to know what's going on in the kitchen and give you the true idea of how kitchens works, isn't it? So professional kitchens are not regular kitchens, you know, they are places with a lot of stress, sense of hurry, sense of teamwork, and many things that happen in the kitchen that makes a kitchen what it is. It's a great place to work if you have that call. It's a call. It's like being a military, isn't it? It's a call. You want to be a soldier and go and save our country is a call. The same thing happened on this area. It's a call because it's a very hard work. It's a really hard work. So first, guys, something that is completely true. Kitchens are both mentally and physically draining areas. When you work in a kitchen, you're gonna wanna work long hours. You're gonna be in the kitchen for long hours, more than 8 hours, let me tell you for sure. You're gonna be hours and hours on your feet, working very hard with a lot of stress. And there's a lot of thinking inside and a lot of attention to put it to the things that also it takes you, it really drains you mentally when you work in the kitchen. So, and the difference between this job, guys, and other jobs is other jobs you can either, you know, are physical or are just mentally. Like go to an office, you know, normally that's a mental thing. You said it, you know, and you're working. There's not too much of physical things. In the other hand, in the kitchen, that's what you do. You really work in both sides hard, you know. It's a hard work and it drains you. It drains you. So there's a lot of stress there. Guys, one more thing is kitchens, there's a huge sense of urgency. There's a huge sense of precision. That is the basic concept in the kitchen. You have to work with precision, and there is always urgency. So there is no, there is always people working in the kitchen. Nobody, you can see if somebody is not working because you can see it if somebody don't want to work. Because everybody has something to do in the kitchen. You don't see anybody stopping doing nothing. Every day, every time, every hour, there is something to do in the kitchen. So it's a sense of urgency. There's always no time for nothing. There's no time for nothing. And we talk about this, and if you have to take attention to somebody, you cannot take too long because there's no time. People are busy all day. You get into the kitchen, you put your apron, and you're gonna be busy all day, guys, all day.
That is so true.
Another things that happen on a professional kitchen that brought your attention, guys, is that work with efficiency is one, and cleanliness is one of the main things in the kitchen. You have to be completely clean. Your station has to be clean. Your floors has to be clean. Everything has to be impeccable. And you work with efficiency. We don't throw things on the garbage. We don't throw, if you crack an egg and you need a yolk, we don't throw the white to the garbage. And I saw many students that get to the school, you know, and says, you know, we're gonna use the yolks. And I saw them cracking the whites in the garbage, and they said, you know, man, if you work in a kitchen and somebody saw you doing that, man,
you're gonna get yelled at.
You're gonna have a problem over there, because there is this sense of we use everything. When we clean the vegetables, the leftover vegetables, they go into the stocks, isn't that, Chef?
Yes, stocks, and if it doesn't go in stocks, it will go into you know, something, anything.
And the rest, we put it in these bins, and we give them to the agricultures, the people who grow, you know, pigs and things like that. we make agreements with that, you know. It's okay. I give you some food for your pigs, and you give me at the end, you know, I'm very praised for the meat, that kind of things, isn't it, Jeff?
Yes, for sure.
It's a sense of we need to have efficiency. The less that we throw to the garbage, the better the business is gonna be. So, man, it is, you know, it is a lot of stress because you have to keep yourself neat, and you have to put attention on every detail that you're doing. So that's how you have to stay all the time organized, isn't it, Chef? Mise en place for this, mise en place for that. It's a well-organized chaos.
And I don't know if they know what mise en place means.
There you are. So mise en place is a French word that was created by Auguste Escoffier on that time. That means everything on its place. And what we do is before you start cooking, you cut it, put all together separately, and when you have everything to work with, you start working. And so when we work in the kitchen, you know, you cut onions for many things. So you don't have to, as we said, we have to be efficient. You don't have to have leftovers to throw it, you know. So we always trying to keep everything, you know, well organized. So another thing, guys, there is an immense amount of work. And sometimes you see that ticket, Chef?
Yeah.
So
that's stress right there.
That made my head hurt right there.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
You're in the weeds big time.
So that's how it works, a real restaurant that has people, you know, a lot of people. So that you have the tickets coming like that. And that's just watch the amount of that. You see that picture, you know, that ticket is, every ticket is an order of food. So, man, that's amazing. So
that's a lot of tickets.
Yes. So the kitchens are extremely high stress environments, you know, and it takes disciplines and nerve of the steels to don't freak out, isn't it, Joshua? Yes. You have to break your production in pieces, you know, that's what we do. It comes this, we break in pieces and make everybody works as a team, you know, and try to maximize the speed and the efficiency to work. But it's so stressful. If you are in the first place coming to the kitchen and watch all this, it's like climb the Everest, you know, watching that, and that was impossible. It's impossible. It's not gonna happen. So yeah, there's always this huge amount of works in kitchens that are busy. If your kitchen is not busy, guys, it's because the restaurant is not making money. So maybe you have to find another job, isn't it?
Yep. But just think about all that stress that you have with those tickets sitting up there. I mean, Jonathan just said it freaks him out, or, you know, gives him a headache. I mean, or Joseph said that, you know, it's just, you know, just think about you at the end of the night after doing all of those tickets. You're just going to be mentally, physically exhausted.
Yeah. So I remember, Chef, years ago, I used to work as a line cook of a cruise ship that used to do tours on the bay for people who party.
Yeah.
So people jump on that, and that goes 2.5 hours trip and return, you know, and then the 2.5 hours there were music and people jumping, you know, and drinking and craziness and eating, you know, and so we have 2.5 hours to take the most amount of service from these people that come into the place. And in the kitchen, it was like 5 hours of non-stop in work, you know. And when it comes, we are waiting like you know, like the runners for the Olympics, you know, ready to jump when they go 100 meters, and then people go, and it was like 100-meter works, you know, crazy working. And then when it's finished, they stop, nobody. and we are sitting on the floor, drinking water, taking a little break, a 1 hour and a half, and then back again. We do it twice a day. That's crazy, You need to have the nerve of the steels, and the bartenders, chef. You have, 500 people in front of the bartender. Could you imagine that?
That's crazy.
So one of the things that happen on the kitchen is that you need to be prepared. There's no excuses. No excuses. You get into the kitchen and every person play a role. So if somebody is not working, everything is gonna be a mess. So there is no excuses. The dynamic of the kitchen is so amazing as a team works that there's no excuses. So when you get into a kitchen, you want to be sure that you really want to do that job. Yes, Joshua. So don't pretend that you know things when you're gonna work in the kitchen just to get a job. You know what I mean? Because then you're gonna get there and you're gonna get embarrassed as soon as the kitchen start working, and instead of helping them, you're gonna feel that you're draining the whole team. So be sure that you don't do that. You get into the kitchen, you expect to perform flawlessly, isn't it, Chef?
Yes.
At all times. And
that's what we expect. That's
no matter if you're hangover, no matter if your girlfriend left you and you're heartbroken, nothing matters. What matters is that sense of teamwork. And I'm being with the chef, and this there, somebody calls and the chef says, "Hello, yes, chef, I'm sorry, but today I'm not feeling sick." Oh my God, in which hospital you are? No, chef, I'm not in the hospital. I am home. No, you come here in 2 hours. I want to be here in the next half an hour.
Yep.
You need to be there. And this is a great example, guys. I used to work in a line. I was working in a line of this restaurants called Le Fouquet. It was a French restaurant. And we were 2 guys on the line. Of the sauté pans, 2 persons. And so we have a line of 14 burners, chef, and 2 persons.
Wow.
And maybe we have, I'm not kidding, when time comes, we have 70 or 60 pans at the same time working. So you don't have time. We don't have, like spoons and things like that. It's just your pan. And at that time, the pans didn't have grips. It was, like cast iron pans. And so we always had there on the sides here, the aprons, remember, chefs? So
yes.
You get the apron to saute your pans. Yep. So the only things that you have is the clips. So the clip is the spoon and everything, and you don't have time to do nothing. You work on such a high speed. So it's a restaurant that is moving very high, but it's small place to work. So when we are working, we don't know how it's gonna work. So we have a mise en place over there in the back. So when we work in front, on the back is a mise with all the cool table which has all the vegetables carried and all that. And that is supervised for us, and the rest, when something is missing, somebody has to come and put it more food over there, isn't it? So be sure that we have everything. So we just turn back, do it, turn back, keep working, turn back, keep working. And there was needed of pans, extra pans. So when a guy has to come inside in the back, he has to, as I always, says, you have to be vocal and says, "I'm coming, I'm on your back," and so on. So you know that somebody's in your back. So the guy who was on my side is taking out of the oven this braising pan with this ribeye, chef.
Yes, braising pan with a ribeye.
Yeah, to put it on the trolley. That goes out, so it has all the juices and all that. So normally we do twice in a day. So the first one was over. We need a second one, so it's coming. and it's pulled it down. And the guy who come with to supply the pans, didn't know, and he turned it out, and he hit the guy on the back, and the water of the pan, the juices of the pan, fell into his feet. So we are working with these cloths, you know, that are very heavy, like, and it burns the guy. So the guy is badly burned. With that, to take it out, he managed to take it out. He saved the ribeye. There's a lot of water. We clean it, and this guy needs to go to the hospital. It's okay, you need to go to the hospital. What the guy says, no, you're not going to take it to the hospital. Get a bucket of ice here right now, and I finish this shit, because he knows what he has to do. So they put a bucket of ice, put there, and we finished the line, chef. And after we finished the line, that was like 1 hour later, we took him immediately to the hospital. So we get to the hospital, and there's the guy burned, you know, the feet, and the doctor says, okay, what happened to you? I just burned in the clinic. How long ago? I just burned it, it says. And the doctor says, you know, no, that's not just burned it, you know. You burned it like an hour or more ago, you know, and that's what that pissed me off, is that because the restaurant wasn't a place where there is a lot of restaurant, you know, areas. And he says, all the time that happened with you guys who works in the kitchens, in the restaurants, you always came late. You prefer to die in the kitchens, and they're just coming immediately to receive attention. And that is true. It's like a war. It's like a war trencher that you're working. You know, you don't abandon your guy until you really feel it. It was that sense of pride that you have to work in a place like that.
For sure. I mean, it's like people getting cut and just not just wanting to keep pushing on.
And so yeah, it's just that weird sensation that when you belong to something, you know, you can. You imagine you work 12 hours, 13 hours a day. You are sharing 13 hours a day your life with this group of people. That is your family. Because that's what you spend the more amount of time with these guys. So you have that sense of family. It's kind of an amazing sense of belong to something, isn't it? That is bigger than you.
Belonging. Sense of belonging, for sure.
So my point is, guys, teamwork is everything in the kitchen. Kitchen is not a work of individuals. You know, it's a work of teams. So everybody needs to know what is the role into that team, you know, and you're expected to do it. Everybody is expected to do it. Trust in your work, and they expected that you're gonna make it, you know. And everybody's pushing the extra mile. You know, when you go to a real restaurant that works nice, everybody is trying to push to an extra mile. And everybody always stays busy. And when it finished, you know, when it finished, we bring back when we start cleaning our stations, guys. And you see really people cleaning at the station like it's the last thing that they're gonna do in life, you know. And the kitchens that has to be impeccable, the cleanings, you know. And we have power washes and put it all this. And after all is done, you'll be people sitting on the floor sometimes, you know, or have nice conversations, and then it's done. It's time to relax and a little talk before you go to work. At my time, guys, when we work in the kitchens, we used to not to drink, hydrate ourselves. You know, we work in this hot environment. We don't drink any liquids. We just thirsty. And when we finish our shifts, what are we gonna do? Go to the first bar out and get a beer, isn't it? And you are so thirsty that you can give me a beer, and you get the beer like look, another, you know. And what is happening is, you know, 2 beers, 3 beers, 4 beers, you know, and that happens, you know, every day, every other day, every day in the kitchens. And then there's a lot of alcoholism in the kitchens, and you know, alcohol comes with depression and many other things, and there is a lot of problems, you know. And that was kind of messy, that part of our lives. because it was crazy. And where we going to the bars where all the people who works in kitchens go. And this is a band of people over there, you know, that we know exactly how is life for every one of us. And it was like, it's like a crazy people. We were like crazy people, you know, like it's like a superpower of inside it. You know what I mean, Chef?
For sure. For sure.
And that takes a lot of lives. Let me tell you guys, that takes a lot of lives. And myself, I'm a survivor from that kind of environment. And still today, this is a profession that has that downside.
Yeah, high amount of alcoholism, high amount of drug use as well.
Drug abuse, yes. So let me tell you, if you work in a professional kitchen, there's so much work, time, and effort that you put it from your own life, you know, and because that's give you a purpose in life. It's kind of a purpose in life, isn't it, Chef?
Yes, it is.
And so it defines who you are as a person. It defines who you are as an individual working in a kitchen like that. And it rewards you all the time. And at the same time, it gives you the biggest sadness in your lives. And at the same time, you feel a hole in your life that you need to fulfill. So it was very hard to know. And at the same time, we are kind of artists, you know. We are kind of artists. So it's a kind of be a poet. It's like being a singer. You have all these strong feelings, isn't it? That when you work in a kitchen, you have these strong feelings about life that is very, very strong. So it's just crazy. So that's why we're talking to the main thing of today, guys, is talking about stress. So, and for many guys, is an accepted part of the dirty work, and we think, you know, they make these surveys, and they say that, you know, 26% of the people think that they get stressed because they have unpredictability in their job. Unpredictability in the job costs a lot of stress. And 21% also says that the stress that they have in their workplace is because of the environment of the workplace. And kitchens feels both sides of that sense of what caused the stress. So that's we say always, you know, kitchens is a great source of stress for people, regardless of the source, no matter what. It produced that effect on people, a lot of stress. And the worst thing of this, guys, is that this was an industry still today that is kind of a macho man industry that used to say, you know, if you work here, you have to be strong. If you're not strong, you don't show your strongness, you are not good for this job. So you have to have this macho thing, you know. I don't have to show my weakness. I have to always show that I'm strong and I'm, you know, a superhero working here. And no matter what, I cannot show what's happened to me. And that causes even more stress on people because you hide your sense of stress and you cannot talk with anybody. So that is worse than worse, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So bad.
Yes. So if you go to if you go to a hospital, you have doctors, you know, like surgeons. They live it with a lot of stress, isn't it? But it's not that kind of environment of a macho man that we have on the kitchens, you know, that you shouldn't show, you know, and it's, you know, shut up, you don't feel that, you know, move it on. You cannot feel like that. This keep going, you know, and you're completely tired. No, keep going. We have to finish. We have to do it. It's that kind of environment that push people to the limits of their lives, and that causes a great big sense of anxiety. And example, you don't know how many tickets that we're gonna set today. It's a big question. That causes anxiety, isn't it? And then you start working, and it's, oh my God, you know, the tickets are coming, and it's just, oh my God, oh my God. You know? And how do we deal with that? You know, it's like very stressful environment. So it depends on the position that you're working. The levels are different, isn't it? So the levels of stress on the front of a house is not the same level of the stress of the back of the house. What do you think about, Jeff?
Yes, the front of the house, back of the house, you name it. It's there's a lot of stress, and you're just gonna have to.
But it's different. It's different the stress in front of the house.
Totally different stress. Totally different stress. Total different stress, for sure.
So you have a lot of people that maybe think, you know, I'm the person for this job, you know, when you have a lot of work. Man, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. And this, why I'm doing this, you know, that kind of thoughts really, really give you a lot of stress. This immense amount of work on rush hour, you know, with tickets coming and going, non-stopping, you know, that's a lot of stress, you know. Sometimes, you know, you work with not too much benefits, especially in front of the houses, and that people don't have benefits. And that's also give them a lot of stress if they don't make. They have to pay insurance by themselves and things like that. That's a lot of stress, that unpredictability on how their salaries are coming. It depends on the people, how they act. So that's put a lot of stress. The other thing that give another strain is that sense of budget. There is never enough time in the kitchen and the restaurant. So you need a day with more hours, don't you think, Jeff?
Oh, always. There is never enough hours in the day when you're in the kitchen.
Yes. So, and also because of that type of work is an environment that has high turnover rates. So, and that put a lot of stress with people who are working there now, another new guys coming, and you have to train it in the middle of this process. So it's like, how can you handle, you know, a person just leave, and now what we can do? And then a part of that, you have all the personal issues that people has, isn't it? Like right now, you know, for sure in Texas, guys, you know, for sure, there's a lot of immigrants working in the kitchens, isn't it?
For sure.
If you work to any kitchen here, you will find, you know, you will find 2, 3 immigrants over there. Some are regulars, some are not working in the kitchen, you know, because nobody wants to do that job. So you have to hire people who want to do that job, you know, like dishwashers and things like that. There's a lot of Mexican people doing that in the restaurant business all over the United States. So, and that comes with a lot of stress for those people and a lot of issues, isn't it?
Yes.
Personal issues. So, and then what's in your family? What's happened with your personal life? So it's adding more stress, isn't it? And then, you know, how the restaurant is perceived by the customers. That's also another thing, but it's completely external to you. But at the same time, you know, it's affecting your life. So it is hard. It is hard. And nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. And that
unspoken. It is unspoken.
It's an unspoken suffering. So that that's the wrong thing to happen, and we are right now pushing and says that there's a lot of lives that we lost in the middle because of this, and this is time to stop, and we have to open and talk. When we work in a kit and you don't feel good, talk about it. So big role right now of the owners, big roles of the managers is establishing channels of communications to help with the stress, because it's a big deal on this business. So if something happened in the kitchen, you know, because there's a problem with a guest, there's a big sense of we didn't make it. Today we didn't make it. And there's gonna be a lot of people suffering inside, isn't that, Chef?
Yes.
So much stress. Yes, sir.
You know, and crazy enough, I got a text this morning from a student that I had a while back that has graduated. But I'm going to read this text to y'all because it really kind of tells you kind of what's going on with this person. And I'm going to kind of basically, this says, my boss told me yesterday that they're going to be documenting that I'm not meeting my numbers, meaning like he's the executive chef and he's got to hit the employee cost, food cost, all of that, and basically document that I'm not hitting the number or my goals, and that could lead to termination. This job is getting harder and harder and puts so much stress on me. I am such in, or it's affecting my health. I am looking for another job, but nothing pays the same. I'm afraid that I'm gonna lose my house. I'm scared to lose my house. I feel like the biggest loser and I am letting my family down, but I can't do this job, you know, or it's killing me right now. So, I mean, that right there is just a text I just got about 15 minutes before class. And, you know, this person is so stressed out. This person is, you know, is afraid they're afraid they're letting down their family, all of that. So just those things right there, that is something that really happens. I mean, that was a text I just responded to. And that happens a lot, guys, especially right now during all of COVID and you're not hitting your numbers and everybody, the owners are stressed out or whatever else. But I just thought that was a text that really is part of today's discussion that I just got. So it happens and it was a graduate and this is just something that they're having to go through. So it is real. So, and I'm sorry, Chef, I just wanted to share that true text.
So, and what happened when you suffer a lot of stress, you know, the people get cynics, you know, toward the jobs, you know, there's exhaustion, you know, there's anger, there's depressions, there's health problems, you know, among other issues. Let me tell you this one day, this guy's coming and says, we want you, Chef, to open a hospital. And the problem is that there's no specialized chefs in hospitals in this country. So we have to teach you. This is a career that you can option and we're gonna teach you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring somebody from the United States to train you for 7 months. 7 months. And on those 7 months that we receive your training, you also have to do your duties to, you know, prepare the kitchen and all that and train the people and do the whole thing. So if you say yes, we will go ahead and do it. And they pay so well, and that was a great opportunity. And I says, of course, yes. And this woman comes and says, you know, I'm a dietitian from a hospital in California. This was a company called American Medical International. And you're gonna come here at 7 o'clock every day, and you're gonna be working with me until 4 o'clock, 7 in the morning until 4 o'clock, every day, including Saturdays and Sunday, because we don't want, and I'm gonna teach you in 7 months what we teach in 4 years of career university. So if you were able to do it, that's the path. And then at 4 o'clock, you go and open the hospital. And I say, yes. So I was from 7 o'clock until 4 o'clock working with this woman, side on the sides, documentation, information, working. And she don't send me homeworks, but because I have to work a lot after that. But after that, I have to go to the hospital. I have to read a lot of information that comes from the company, prepare ships, talk to the architects, and do the whole thing of the project that come in and all the how is that, and the staffing and costing, and you can imagine all that. And so I was working, I'm not kidding you, 18 to 20 hours a day. And I sleep 4 hours, 5 hours. That's the maximum that I sleep. And for one whole year, guys, consecutive whole year, 1 year. So imagine the stress that I have in my body with sleep depression and that amount of work that I have. So we get to the point we opened the hospital and it was everything incredible, working so smooth. And I'm working in the hospital and I'm walking from, this is a corridor and I'm working here and I'm beginning to the corridor and then I'm on the end of the corridor and on in between, I have no record. So I went in one point and I was in the other point. It was like magic, And I'm walking in one office and then in the next second, I'm sitting on my office. And I was, what the hell, And I'm sitting on my office and in one point, I'm driving to my home. And I start losing the recollection of the timing that happened in the middle. And so,
wow.
Yes, it was incredible. And one day I get to home, I go to sleep, and my body shut down, coma. The
Really?
next day, really, the next day my wife tried to wake up in 0. My father was a doctor, called my father, he doesn't wake up. Call the hospital, the ambulance, call, 0. Put in the ambulance, I'm one of the first, patients on the hospital that I built. And I get to the hospital inside. And when I open my eyes, guys, 3 days later, I was in intensive care. And so the guy said, the doctor says, okay, he's awake right now, but we're gonna keep him. And they keep me 5 days sleeping in coma until my body recovered. And when I returned, it says, you suffered what we call surmenage. Your body is shut, your body is shut down, and die. You die for exhaustion. And we save you, and you're back. And now they put me scans and everything, and say, now you have problems in your brain. You're gonna have to work all your life with these pills and all these things, And then I went to my monk, my Buddhist monk, and he says, no, what? You cannot do that. You cannot put your body to that extreme stress, You need to rest. You need to do the things. So if you have a lot of things to work, stop, go to sleep 2 hours, keep working, stop, go to sleep. Give your body the chance to recover. If it's not happening, the body is gonna shut down because it's the only thing that is the defense, the last defense of the body is shut down, isn't it? To keep that. So that happened to me, guys. It was incredible. It was
wow.
And that was the extreme working to get something that was bigger than me, and trying to fill that hole. So can't do that, guys. Can't do that.
Wow, Chef, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
That's crazy, Chef. So sometimes we don't feel, we have to be sure that we understand that stress with people, isn't it? So we need to have their eyes open and be sure that that stress is not something that you're suffering, but the people that work with you suffering, isn't it? So if there's a lot of stress, the morale is gonna go if you don't do something. So we have to be careful that we give enough amount of rest to the people who are working in the kitchen. The schedules are not overwhelmed with hours, isn't it, Chef? So people go to the point that there is a breakdown point, because what is going to happen is something happened to one of those, like something that happened to me, you know. The hospital was in big trouble. They were doing everything to need to get me happy, you know, because they know that I can sue the hospital for that, what they do with me. So
Yeah, you just got to take care of yourself, no matter what. You know, exhaustion, mental illness, you name it, or just depression in general. You've got to be very careful with that.
yes. So if a server is stressed, it needs to have, it has to be an open channel to go and talk and give support from the management team on the front of the house. The guy, it needs to know that they have their back. If you feel that they're anxious, they will get your back, isn't it? And in the kitchen, we have to put attention. No macho men think, you know, you are strong. If you have problems, we have to fix it. We have to help you. There's a lot of therapists. There's a lot of therapy talking right now. There's a lot of cooks that right now going to therapy to talk about that and try to help with deal with the things, you know. And there's a big movement to try to reduce the amount of hours that we put into these high stress working places. It makes sense, guys. It's the same what happened with the guys who are doing the airport controllers, Jeff.
Yes, yes, I know what you're talking about.
The airport controllers is also a very stressful work. So you cannot put these guys working too much hours, because then it's going to be crazy and the accidents are going to be worse, and there's a lot of people dead over there, isn't it? So the same happened with the managers. You know, if the manager has too much on their table, they need to change. You know, be sure to put attention, put solutions. You know, if they can't remember, you know, exactly the details of what happened, maybe we need to put a system that helps, isn't it? To be sure that the things are working in a better. So if people don't get to work, they don't have eating. That's very common this in restaurants. You get to work, Josh. Do they give you food on your work?
I don't take it, but after work they give us free meals.
Okay, after work. So that's what happened. That's wrong, because they try to fix it, something that you pass through all the stress and everything, you know. You need a meal before you start working, not after you start working. So that kind of things you have to put a lot of attention, you know. And then we have these poorly cooking meals that we put it over there, you know, and get it, you know. It's like we're gonna give you something. If you eat it, if you want it, you know, it's like, I'm not gonna eat that, you know. It's you have to put attention to this kind of details, because the people that work in your company and your grades, those are the ones who are making the business. Those are the ones who are sacrificed for the idea of success of that enterprise. So I really fight for that right now. I'm a big fighter for that, you know. And so before I get, let me show you something, because there you are. I'm going to show you because it really comes to my heart. This. Can you see the screen, guys?
Yeah, it's about to pop up. Yes.
After a series of high-profile suicides last year, including Anthony Bourdain, one restaurant owner in Sacramento, California, decided to take action. He's now trying to spark a national movement, one kitchen at a time. John Yang reports for our weekly series on the leading edge of health and science.
The dinner specials at Mulvaney's B&L restaurant in Sacramento, pasta with truffle and wild-caught halibut with bok choy. We have a couple new desserts. The mood of the staff, very anxious.
If you haven't, when you checked in today, please use our mental health check-in box, and put your card in there to see where you guys are at.
Tensions are high because chef and owner Patrick Mulvaney blew off earlier when a catering job went wrong. Months ago, the staff might have pushed their feelings aside, smiled for the customers, and moved on. But these days, workers are encouraged to be open about their feelings and keep an eye on each other. It's a change born out of necessity and loss.
I mean, I have the best job in the world, let's face it.
Anthony Bourdain's suicide last year shocked the restaurant community around the world. The host of CNN's Parts Unknown was beloved by chefs, candid about his battles with drugs and depression. In Sacramento, Bourdain's death came amid a string of restaurant workers' suicides.
So in 4 weeks, we had 4 people die. And on a Sunday, we had a memorial here for our server. And I woke up Monday to get ready for a memorial for a former bartender to see my phone lit up with all the messages that a former chef had died as well. And just 4 memorial services in 2 weeks is too much.
Mulvaney's grief spurred him to create a program focused on his workers' mental health. He calls it, I Got Your Back.
We want people to be able to talk about it. And that the idea that you can, by lowering stigma, increase the safety, but also the people who are facing challenges, instead of saying, that's just them, we'll let them go. We're beginning to engage with them to try and say, hey, I don't think you're okay. How can we help you be better?
It's a peer-to-peer counseling and support program designed in conjunction with local healthcare providers. Researchers say that service employees who rely on tips are more susceptible to depression and stress than any other employees. And according to federal data, substance abuse is higher in the restaurant and hospitality industry than in any other field. The fast-paced, high-pressure environment of restaurant kitchens, long, grueling shifts, and what are often low and unpredictable wages can take its toll.
The reticence to ask for help or ask people for things is built into the restaurant industry because we're about hospitality. Is your drink cold? Is your steak hot? Is your soup to your liking? We never ask about ourselves.
To encourage staff to be aware of their feelings and those of their colleagues, each member of Mulvaney's team gives a mood check when they clock in for work each day. They pick a color, red for angry, green for happy, yellow for okay, and blue for sad, and place it in a box. Lisa Scholes is the restaurant's human resource manager.
Throughout the day, we might grab the box at the change of shift time and kind of count out how many reds we have, how many yellows we have, how many greens. Sometimes just having a idea about how people are feeling changes how you react with them. I just wanted to basically say thank you for stepping up for Alex.
One worker on every shift, identified by a purple helping hand sticker like the one Lisa's wearing, is trained to recognize signs of colleagues' mental distress and direct them to help.
When we said that we're going to have the counselors being peers, being the people on the floor working with you in the trenches, that then people would go to them naturally, and in fact they have.
And they can relay fellow workers' concerns to the boss. Resources are available online and reminders are everywhere, from the bathrooms to the host stand, that there is help and hope. The coalition of local healthcare groups, including Kaiser Permanente and the University of California Davis Medical Center, provide funding and mental health resources.
What made today worse?
Lizanne Wick is the director of the suicide prevention program at WellSpace Health, which also provides services for Mulvaney's program.
The beauty of the I Got Your Back project is that it puts it right there where they're at. It makes talking about mental health and wellness and help seeking and even suicide or depression a more natural thing.
Mulvaney's initiative fits with the other community work he does with his wife and business partner, Bobbin. He says it's inspired by one of his favorite films.
I got $2,000.
The classic, It's a Wonderful Life. The B&L in his restaurant's name stands for Building and Loan, a nod to the institution at the center of the movie's story.
Merry Christmas, you wonderful Building and Loan!
I hoped that we would open a place for people to come to talk about issues of the day and invite us into those conversations. And over the last 13 years, what we've seen is that we become a central part of many of those conversations in our community. And this is the first time where we are bringing that outside community in to talk about how to help our own community too.
Help people like Casey Scheidler, executive chef at another Sacramento restaurant, Taylor's Kitchen. She's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. In the 10 years she's worked in professional kitchens, she says she's hit rock bottom in both her alcoholism and mental health.
As far as everything else for the menu?
In 2018, she was having suicidal thoughts, but never talked about it. After Bourdain's suicide, she attended a I Got Your Back session at Mulvaney's.
After that first meeting, even though I didn't speak, I felt better. That's when I spoke with my mother for the first time. My mom has been in the mental health field my entire life, and she's always been the same person I talk to. But even then, I wouldn't talk to her. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I don't know why. I mean, that's not true. And I know exactly why. It's just an incredibly difficult thing to say out loud and admit to people.
Since then, she's gotten the treatment she needs, including medication. She's now trained in mental health first aid and is running an I Got Your Back program at her own restaurant.
Everyone in the room, we've all faced a pretty tough year, but also a tough life, and started to think about how we change the culture in our kitchen.
By organizing mental health training sessions for other Sacramento restaurant owners, Mulvaney hopes he'll be able to expand the program statewide and one day take the program to kitchens across the country.
As we, as an industry, start to talk about this and open it up and reduce stigma, we think that everyone will begin to come into the conversation.
And he hopes his efforts provide an example for others to follow. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm John Yang in Sacramento, California.
That was really good. Aaron, did you have something you wanted to say? No, I guess not.
So we're gonna watch another one too later with the same thing. In this one, you will see familiar faces.
I see it.
We are dealing with an epidemic of mental illness in our industry. People are afraid to talk about or confront or take care of themselves.
A lot of people don't understand how to deal with people that have anxiety, depression, because they don't know what to say.
It took a lot of prominent figures in the restaurant industry and outside to help us figure out that it is okay to talk about this.
I was much more affected by Anthony Bourdain's death than I thought I would be. What was scariest about it was that I realized it could be me.
After Anthony Bourdain passed, sadly, a couple of acquaintances, and I've heard of numerous people in the food and beverage industry taking their lives.
And he was this icon of positivity and living life to the fullest.
He was the last person people thought would commit suicide, and he had strained with depression that nobody knew about.
If a chef like Anthony Bourdain could kill himself, then how a chef like myself can deal with my mental issues and deal with all the stress that comes with the industry.
In the restaurant industry, there's a big macho sort of persona that whatever restaurant you're working in, you have to adapt to that.
Tough, nothing bothers me,
I got the biggest ego.
You have to look happy, because if you don't, then that affects the people around you and they feed off your energy. So even when your life is in shambles, nobody can know that.
Only reason why people listen to you and respect you for how much you can take under pressure. As a Black chef, a lot of times I have to be strong, but not too strong. Like, I can get angry, but not too angry. If I come off as too strong, then I'm the angry Black woman.
I think as a biracial chef, it's always tough because your whole life you feel like you don't fit in. It makes you more isolated. So the challenge is, how do you make that decision to break down those walls and open up?
A couple of times that I've opened up to people that I thought would be supportive. You don't need that. You don't need to be on antidepressants right now. You're fine. And it runs anywhere from there to, wow, I always thought you were stronger than that.
Being vulnerable should be viewed as honest, and honesty takes strength.
I had to actually untrain myself over the years to who I authentically am.
In the restaurant industry, we're kind of a giant band of misfit toys.
And we wonder whether it's that we attract people who have issues that are going on, or we create the issues because of the environment the restaurant lives in.
There's such a huge pressure to work until you basically fall apart. I have often felt guilty for not working 90 some hours a week. I have felt guilty if I leave before we close.
If you're not at work, you better be in the hospital, dead, or in jail.
Because of the pressure and the fear that I was going to lose my job, I didn't call in sick. And I spent 2 weeks in the hospital fighting for my life with double pneumonia.
Most of my career, I didn't have any days off. I was the first person to walk in the kitchen, the last person to leave. That would be 8 in the morning until 1 in the morning.
For a lot of us, when we go home, there's nobody around. Up until recently, my usual way of coping with it was to just drink myself to a point where my brain would shut up.
Most of us are working off of passion over money. I have survived off of $10, $11 an hour, working overtime, 2 jobs, on top of having to pay back $65,000 worth of student loans.
I would work at a place where I was making $11.50, and halfway through the work week, I didn't even have enough money to catch the bus.
When you work so hard and you can't even pay your bills, that really hits you hard. It makes you feel worthless.
Every plate is a new curtain opening and you're being judged. That creates a very stressful environment.
You don't get the opportunity to edit the work that you've done. You don't really get a second chance.
Some of the things that have become normalized in the restaurant industry that I really wish weren't: the drug abuse, the alcoholism, the physical abuse, the sexual abuse.
When I was a young cook, I've had chefs spit in my face. I've had them screaming in my face, cussing in my face.
The chef would ask me into his office and close the door behind me. He would corner me and yell at me. He would throw utensils at me, and he also would ask me to do things like lick his face.
I had to leave the industry after 14 years when I realized it was just too hard on me physically and mentally. I've been a personal chef for about a year now, and the thought of going back in the kitchen is scary.
I have been reprimanded in an aggressive and belittling way to get someone's point across. I have also been that person, and I don't ever want to be that person anymore.
This is my first time talking publicly about my struggles being such a young manager. It causes a lot of anxiety, sometimes depression. As of now, I've been able to afford to go see a therapist. It was important for me to speak up, so that way maybe someone else who's going through what I'm going through knows that they're not alone.
I'm not broken because I have anxiety. I try not to feel any stigma about taking an anti-anxiety medication. I know that I have to take care of myself to be able to take care of other people.
I've considered suicide a couple of times in my life. Right about a year ago, Tampa was about to get destroyed by a major hurricane. You know, in the slowest time of year, we just had our business cut by about 75%. I mean, maybe a month later, the news starts reporting about a serial killer in the neighborhood. Again, our business was down 50, 75%. That stress of, again, putting on the good face, being the leader with all the answers, just, you know, took an amazing toll on me.
I tried to kill myself 3 times. in about a year. I had something to drink on the side, and I just took a razor blade and started going. And my now ex-girlfriend, she had walked through the door, and even then, I was trying to be the restaurant tough guy. Like, it's totally fine. And, you know, you don't go to the hospital. And I go and work brunch the next day, and in the middle of a hot summer, you know, in Chicago, wearing long sleeves, and all the time, aren't you hot? People are asking me, man, you must be a cold soul. I don't get it.
I was adopted. I was abused, sexually abused. I was gay in Mississippi. At the time that I was suicidal, I never talked about it. And I was very lucky that I had something inside me that, call it hope.
I want to affect a social change, especially within the restaurant industry, because it's the place I love to be.
We can start a conversation that's going to help millions of people. Speak out to someone. Don't keep it a secret, because secrets breed pain and torture.
My team and I came together and organized an event called Herd to bring food and beverage people together to just show that it's okay to not be okay.
In Sacramento, we've lost a bunch of people over the last year to suicide. So we've started to have to talk about it among ourselves and brought 15 restaurateurs together. We're doing a series of 8-hour trainings. Shorthand would be like CPR for mental health. It's a challenge that has no victories. It's a challenge that will have fewer defeats.
We can create an environment that it's accepting.
I'm really tired of watching people die too young.
The fear of losing a Michelin star, the fear of a business closing and failing, the pressure of a bad review. These aren't reasons to take your life. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to strive to be great if there's no one to share it with.
We've gotten to the point now where when people have mental health issues during service, instead of saying breakdowns, we're trying to actually spin a positive light on it. So we call them breakthroughs.
Don't downplay your story. Just because someone else has a worse story, your story still matters.
You have to find that support system, and alcohol and drugs is not that.
We need to accept that we have this problem before we can change it.
It's not just in the food industry. It's not just the people that you would expect.
Sit down and look at the employee or your coworker who you know is having these issues. All of those red flags. The I don't know anymore. The I don't know if I can do it. Are you okay? Have you tried to kill yourself? It's going to take an honest, tough conversation if you really want to change how people look at this.
How amazing was that video? That was amazing.
It's tough to talk about these things, Jeff.
It is.
Let me tell you guys, for me, even today, it's tough to talk about these things because it's tough. It's tough. In this industry, it's kind of tough. And since I myself am a suicidal survivor, but being, you know, I have problems on my family, I have problems on my job, or pressure in the job, and what I do, alcohol and drugs, and to the point that I'm completely abusing of that, and I'm getting to this deep hole of depression. To one day trying to jump from a risk to finish my life, and I don't know what kind of force stopped me to do that, but I was here on a cliff or maybe 1,000 feet high to jump just because I was so depressed. And I recovered from that, and I'm trying to do it better, you know, and I do it and do it and do it, and I'm success on my job, and I'm happy, and I'm in a happy place again. And I'm mentoring this amazing chef. I mentored. I have a 32 years old chef, young chef. He's amazing. He worked for me. Then he's working for my best friend. And he's doing this amazing job. He started making his cooking book. And then he print his book, and he's declaring the best cooking book of the world. And this guy is just on the top of he's all over. He's working as a speaker all over. And One day he disappeared for 4 days, and when we find him, he took his life at the age of 32 years old, guys. He took his life. He left a children, 7 months old, and a 3-year children, when he was 32 years old. So it's what it is. We have to talk about, and we have to be open. This is a stigma that we have. We don't talk on these things in the kitchen, even though we have heartbroken. That couldn't happen, guys. It's not time to happen anymore. And I hope that this videos a little bit. So let's just take a break, guys, for 15 minutes, recover from this shock of this thing, and we talk about it, and we keep going with the class. Okay, so everybody here at 11:45 is okay?
Sounds great. Thank you, Chef.
Me logging. No, me logging into my computer. It's just bye. What?
It's a chart of showing like the pathogen of germs. It says 90% risk when two people don't have masks. One's wearing a mask and the other's not. 5% risk for the person who is spreading the virus. 1.5 risk if they're both wearing masks. 0% risk is when the guy with the mask who's giving off the virus says, "Hey, want to check out my V6 Mustang?"
So guys, can you please everybody show that you're here back so we can start, please?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Colton, Titus. Colton, Titus, can you all show yourself? Ooh. Thank you. Thanks.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
guys.
Chef,
Yes.
my name is pronounced that way, so that's why I didn't respond.
Oh, how do you say it?
Peyton.
Katen. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
There's no problem. I just.
My apologies. Katen. Okay, cool.
What you got going on right now?
So guys, now you have the picture of this business that is not so glamorous, isn't it? It is a hard-working environment with a lot level of stress. So, and it takes on this way many lives during the years, and we're trying to avoid that right now, and be more open about mental disease, you know, and about levels of stress that can affect your life. That is treatable. That is something that we can deal with that and help the people who has to work on these environmental levels, companies that has these high levels of stress. So yeah, I hope you, and how we can do that. So how we can help, how we can reduce the amount of stress. That's the question. That's the big thing that we are right now putting from how are we gonna do, how are we gonna deal with this? So there's few things that we can do, isn't it? The first thing, you know, is time management. We need to be sure that we master the time that people are working in the industry. So this industry, always the time is working against you. So what we're trying to do is create a place where we have that sense of heaviness, that sense of urgency, but at the same time, you can work for less period of times. So let your body rest, and when you rest, be sure that you release your stress. So there's a lot of things that we can do in that, you know, how many time off we can do to people to rest, how many hours people can stay during their shifts, and things like that, you know. This is not an environment that we work with superheroes, isn't it? We're just humans. So time management is it's a process, you know, it's a conscious process that we're trying to get the best of the time, isn't it? And we want to increase the effectiveness of the people who's working in. So we want to also check on productivity, but most important, you know, check that people who are working on this on the areas, it has say a good amount of rest, and all that helps to have a perfect, you know, and more helpful environment. Especially in times of tight things, you know. We have, if that happened, you know, we're gonna have better productivity. The reputation is gonna be better because they know that we take care of our employees, you know. There's gonna be a little levels of stress, increased opportunity because maybe you're gonna need a little more people, you know. And they give you a life outside of the restaurant. So which is also important, though, it's you need to have a life. It's not just the restaurant, isn't it? You need to have some kind of a life. Don't you think, Chef?
For sure, you have to have a life outside of your restaurant.
So if we don't do that, what will be the thing that you saw? It's going to be efficiency. People are poorly qualified because it's tired, and you have high level of stress. There's a lot of errors, and a lot of and also because people are stressed, then there's a lot of conflicts in the restaurant, and conflict restaurant, they create more and more stress and create more and more sense of sadness, and because of that, it's bad for people. It becomes a very bad environment that is not healthy at all. The second thing is, guys, we don't try to glamorize this stress environment and say, I want to be like a top chef, I want to be like Gordon Ramsay, I want to be like these people that is no, guys, that's not the way to do it. All these things that you see in TV, they're fiction. There's fiction. It's created to make you watch the TV. Real life is different, So we want to be sure that really this is not a place for heroes, for superheroes, and we are just humans. We have to open doors to people to urge, and we know that there's no stigma of that. Like yesterday, I was so surprised in a very nice way that that Chef Cliff was so open about his diseases, isn't it? And there's no stigma about things that happen to us. There's no stigma to say I'm sad, There's no stigma to say I'm suffering right now from depression. There's no stigma about that. So we can fix it. There's things that we can fix it. So
you've just got to be open.
We have to be open, and we have to give assistance. We need to give support for people who need it. Not just be open, but supporting people who need it. So assistant programs, as we see it right now on that video, they are very, very important because contribute to get a better health on the people who are. There's many things, the small things that we can do, like improve the food in the restaurant, more healthy food. Be sure that everybody drink water all the time. They are well hydrated. We encourage all that kind of things, isn't it? Be sure that you rest, that you have time off, and encourage all that people. And be sure that make some exercise, do some activities. Don't get in a point that your only life is the restaurant. Next thing, you have to eliminate communication barriers. People should be willing to speak at any time. So no matter thing, you just come and talk. Wherever your problem is, this is open. This is an open environment when you can come and talk. No matter if you're front of the house, no matter if you're back of the house, there's no things. And there's a culture of, it's a military culture. You know what I mean? It's like you don't talk to the chef. You talk to me first. Then you talk to the next person. No. In a kitchen, you can talk openly, no matter if you're the dishwasher or if you're the sous chef, no matter what. So you have to be sure that we have channels of communications open, that we have methods, like it was a great method to put, these cards with different colors. That's an excellent way to deal with the stress, don't you think, Chef?
Yes, I actually like that idea.
That was an excellent idea to do that, isn't it? And then another thing that causes stress is that lack of training, don't you think, Jeff? So training programs, when people exactly know what's happened, know what to do, the more information they have, less stress that they have in their life. So the restaurant need to share everything. People need to know everything that's what's going on. They're going to put more their hearts, and they know exactly what it is. It's not a surprise. It's not when things coming. Enough training, give more confidence. You are you're more helpful. More training doesn't mean now you're more training. I'm going to give you more job. That's not the case. It shouldn't be like that.
More training for you to feel more secure in your position.
Yes,
That's
exactly. And we promote collaboration. This is as I talked before, this is a teamwork, isn't it? So it has to come organic. That collaboration has to come organic, you know. When you want to help, don't wait until they ask you. Go and help, isn't it? If you want to talk, don't wait until somebody come and says, hey, what's happened to you? Go talk, you know. Be sure that when we promote collaboration, you know, all the time, and it's normal for people to talk, then they're gonna talk. It's gonna flow, you know, all these things are gonna flow up. So we need to encourage activities that are outside of the job to make people feel like more family environment. Make sense? If you have, you know, like outside get-togethers outside of the restaurant and treat people as a family, make them know their families, who they are, not just a person, you know, bring the children's, make them feel that this is an environment that is very positive for them. Then they will talk because they will feel that support. What do you think about that, Chef?
I completely agree. It makes you feel a little more open to talk to your peers or to your bosses or whoever.
Exactly. So the other side is if you are the employer, you have to listen. You have to listen. When you ask for collaboration, you need to have the other part. You ask for collaboration, you have to collaborate first, you know. You have to be sure. If I want to be your friend, I want to be friend with you too. So this is something that it works in two ways. So the managing team has to be very open, you know, and on that. How can you make an employers help make them know that you are listening to them? Because they collaborate with the management team. So whatever happens in the restaurant and the decisions that is taken, you participate with the rest of the team. So when they think that they're part of that, they think that we're hearing, isn't it? That reduces the stress. You know, this is something that is very encouraging, you know. Hey, take a little bit time for yourself, isn't it? Go, breathe, get out, make some exercise, burn some calories, you know, go every day, walk, do something, you know, reduce the stress, take some sun, you need vitamin D, you know, not only work in the kitchen. This is something that you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your body. Your body is the best tool that you have. So take care of your body. Don't just take the body to the extreme until it breaks completely in pieces. How many of our chefs today, right now, you can see that they cannot walk, you know, they cannot, I have knee problems right now, but not as bad as other people, you know, like I have, Chef John, I have this 7 or 8 operations on their knees and things like that. And this is because you have to treat yourself with respect too, guys. Example, you need to get good shoes. You work in a kitchen, spend money and good shoes because you're gonna be on your shoes 10 hours a day or more, isn't it? Be sure that, get out. Take care of your body, guys. Be sure that your body is a temple and take care of them. We already take the break. So now, after we talk about that, before we're gonna get to you know, to how to handle, you know, problems, I wanna hear your opinions about all this, about the stress. What do you think? Shan.
I mean, just stress on this job is just incredible sometimes. It's like some days after a long shift, you go home and on the way home, you just drive drive home with no music on, the windows down, just thinking about the day, and it's kind of hard to get the day off your mind sometimes.
Yeah. Let's get a new person here. What about Cameron? Cameron, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
So, who went to your opinion?
I've worked a couple shifts for like 18 hours, and usually, like after a stressful day, and I knew that day was be stressful, you know, I would just do some things to kind of calm myself down and relieve stress. Whenever I got home, I'd maybe do like a small workout, take a shower, and, you know, just release some stress, and then go to sleep.
Get good sleep. Yes. That's a good thing. Haley.
The amount of stress there, is that the question?
Yes. What are your thoughts about all the stress that we talk about in this environment? How we should handle it?
Well, you got to handle it like with ease, because I was working in the mechanic field, which is a male dominant field.
Yes.
And it was super stressful because I had to keep up with their pace, which was really hard because, you know,
yeah,
their
heard the
level is
history
different
that
from
you,
mine.
You almost broke your back, you know, trying to be.
Yeah,
trying to be
I
superhero.
tore my lumbar muscle.
Yes.
Like, it could have completely torn it, and I would have been out for like a year.
Yeah.
But I just was out for 10 weeks. But I did that because I was trying to prove that I could do what they could. But
so it was a culture. Well. It was a macho culture, isn't it? With a lot of stress. That put the stress to you to try to do. Yeah. So what?
That's why I'm here.
How are you gonna avoid that?
Actually talk about it more.
Yeah, you have to.
Because I didn't talk to them about it.
Yeah, you have to talk about it. Yes. What about Ashley? Ashley? So, Ashley's not answering. So, Richard, are you there? Richard, since you're coming from a family of people who are in the industry. Hello? Richard, are you there? Chef, there's a lot of people disconnected here today.
Yeah, I will try to, I'll try to message them. And there's a lot of people writing on the chat.
Lyric, what do you think, Lyric?
Let me try to text.
I think that it's important to let go of stress while your work stress, actually.
How?
So if you able to, man, really stretch before like right as you leaving. Let all that negative energy or all that trapped energy being at work, because you think about it, you're gonna have so much just weight on your shoulders just for keeping up with the orders and keeping up with the tickets and making sure everything flows right. So once you stretch out of that, then you're like, oh, it helps relieve a lot of your mental anguish, and it helps you actually ease the tension that's going on in your body.
I'm agree with you. What about you, Timothy? Timothy?
Ashley, you there?
I'm here.
Okay. There's Ashley. I'll get Timothy.
So Ashley,
what do you think?
How you fight against the stress in this industry?
I use a few different things. I have anxiety, so I've been taught like a lot of grounding methods that teach me how to deal with stress. Like I try to do like deep breaths where when you do like the deep breaths thing, you have to make sure that you're not thinking about whatever is stressing you. And that kind of like clears your thoughts for a second and like helps you with a bit of stress. And if it's like long term, I like to listen to music that really helps.
Yeah. And Timothy wrote on the chat.
What about Richard?
Yeah.
So you come from a family. You come from a family that people that are in the business. How they deal with the stress?
What my dad does, when my dad gets stressed like that, my dad just he takes a moment and he thinks, he thinks about what he's getting disgruntled or, what he's getting stressed about. And like, if any of his coworkers are the same way, he just tries to talk them down and like try to reason with them or try to give them an understanding, which is an easy way. Try to be on the same level and on the same understanding as them to deal with a disgruntled coworker.
That's great. Martin, what do you think?
In my senior year, I was in yoga, so I learned like a lot of ways to relax, and calm yourself. And well, I used that a lot when I was in boot camp because boot camp is very stressful. You're put into a bunch of stress. So I used a lot of breathing techniques and stretching, taking moments to relax and calm myself, and that actually helps a lot.
That's awesome. That's there, and there is things right now that there are a lot of techniques that we use in the restaurant industry to release and there is a lot of things that we do for fight against the stress. And another thing that we do is try to be awareness of yourself, isn't it? So be sure that you are on the present and be sure that you enjoy whatever it is happening and put attention to what happened on the present. So that is a kind of a Buddhist concept that we're incorporating right now in the industry, in any industry right now, in fact, to be sure that you understand that sense of enlightenment that you have when you are present on your life. So because it gives you purpose. So there you are.
Yoga is one thing that I've used a lot to try to minimize my stress and anxiety, for sure.
What do you think, Lauren?
Are you talking to me?
Oh, yes. Lauren Bailey. Unmute, please.
You're muted. Here, let me see if I can unmute her.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
yes.
Now we can.
Okay, my computer's messing up. What was the question?
One of the question is if you are able to work in this industry, how are you gonna fight against the stress?
Oh, for me, like whenever I get really stressed out, I'm on medication for it, but I just sit down with somebody and talk about it too. Just letting it out, really helps. Yes. Also, what Lauren said, the music for me is so therapeutic. I don't know what I'd do without that actually. And just having friends and family just to turn to, even your pet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What do you think? What else? Before we finish, let's get a little opinion of what about Maya? What do you think, Maya, about this? Maya.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. What I usually do is I just step to the side. I say a little prayer, or like I sing a song to myself in my head to kind of get over the way I'm feeling. And then when I come back to, I just get back into it. And it doesn't matter if I'm still working beside the person who says something to make me feel some type of way. That just helps me get back to what I'm doing so I can finish my goal and go home.
Yes. But remember, guys, this one thing that is really, really important is stress is a symptom, isn't it? Stress is a symptom that something is happening to us. So if we want to fix the problem, we have to be sure is how to fix why we're having so much stress. So that's a very important key on understanding, and helping people to reduce a little bit of stress. There are things that you cannot reduce, isn't it? So it is what it is on the restaurant business. The tickets are going to come, and we have to deal with that, isn't it? So, but we can reduce the level of stress if we have enough people to deal with that in a more healthy environment that it's more cooperative. It makes sense?
Yes, it does.
So next we're gonna get to the next step is why stress also causes a lot of disgruntled in people, isn't it? So people get mad, people get pissed off, and when people get pissed off, we have conflicts in the workplace, isn't it? So an employee that has problem because he's angry, you immediately can notice, isn't it? It's easy to notice something that is angry because maybe his head is down, he rarely smiles, his attitude is a little indifferent, or maybe he's hostile with the rest of the people, or one or two, or whatever, isn't it? So angry and dissatisfied, it's contagious. So we have to be very careful because it can grow between the members. Because one thing that we learn is we don't like to talk about problems, but we like a lot to patronize the problems. You know what I mean? To go with people and fight with them and talk against the company and talk against the restaurants, talk against the chef, create a very, harmful environment where people are angry. So prevent that is very, very important. So these are symptoms or something happens, isn't it? So we have to identify the problems to be sure that we solve whatever is happening in the restaurant. Well, we can avoid that because sometimes there are personal problems that happen in the middle, isn't it? That cause all these things that are external to the restaurant. And also we have to deal with that. Like example, two employees hate each other. It's very common to see that. And they just hate each other. So what do you do as a manager? You cannot get the position of one or the other. You just put in, and then they come to you and trying to set, and you're in the middle like the cheese of the sandwich, and you cannot get into position to put in one side of another. You have to try to, help them to. You have to fix the conflict and see what is the root of that conflict. So there's a lot of things that you can do to be sure that you get the bull by the horns and resolve what is causing the problems within peoples. So yeah, always a positive attitude is the most important thing. You cannot resolve a problem if you yourself start screaming, as example, isn't it? And we are humans, screaming myself, and then you regret it. So you don't want to get to the problem that the guy starts screaming, you start screaming, and then you regret it, because you cannot fix something that you already create. So you cannot become a monster and try to fight at the same level, So you have to you have to calm down, chill down. When somebody is on that level of stress, you need to chill down, make the people breathe. And sometimes we get in the point that says, hey, before you start talking, get out and breathe. How many times you do that sometimes, Chef?
A lot. When you just go outside and breathe or get away for a couple of seconds and just breathe. Yeah, Totally.
Or somebody come and with you very angry and says, you know, before you start talking nonsense,
take a deep breath.
Get out and breathe. Get a coffee, get a drink, get out and breathe. You know, take
Collect your
water,
thoughts.
whatever, and when think and then we talk, because it's hard to talk when you are in the middle of the high level of stress. So, to be sure that we have a culture that is able to fix the conflicts, we need to have a cultures that do that with a manager team on the top of the board, isn't it? Everybody has to get into that. So we have to be dealing with that. Every day we have meetings every day on this business. And on these meetings, we always check the temperature of how people are doing it. And if we feel that there's conflicts on areas, you know, we have to immediately fix it before they escalate to worse things. It's better to fix the problem when they start creating, when the situation starts emerging. We don't get to go to a point that become a big wave that is going to take a tsunami, isn't it? That is going to cause a lot of problems. So understand the conduct of people. Why are they doing this? You know, what's the problem? Maybe talk to them. That's a good idea, isn't it? Open doors to come to talk. But if there's a conflict between two, if you open the doors to talk with one, you should talk to the other person too. And if you dedicated 10 minutes to the first person, you have to dedicate 10 minutes to the second person. And be sure that you treat them equally, each one of the person, and you put the same attention to each one of them. That's very, very important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So important. Because you've got to give the same amount of attention to everybody.
Yes. So somebody come and says, hey, Chef, we have this problem. So great. It's a great thing that happened, you know, when somebody come and open and says, hey, we have this problem. Okay. So first thing, identify very, very clear what the problem is, isn't it? What they are talking is a symptom of something, or that is the real cause of the problem. What is the cause of that problem? And that's something that first we try to identify before we do nothing, because you need to find the root of the problem, not the consequence of the problem, isn't it, Chef?
Yes, that is so correct.
So if you know exactly what it is, you immediately fix it, and then it is. Sometimes it requires people, you know, sometimes people come angry and you see that it's not working, they start fighting, but it's an internal problem. It's an internal process of the person. You can talk to them and try to help you, and what happened is external. It's not the restaurant, it's not the business. That person, he or she, has problems on their own life, and it can be fixed. You can help it, you know. There's a lot of things that you can do. You need time to fix it. You can give them time to do that, or you need support to do that. We can do that, isn't it? There's all kind of things that the company can do for the employees, counting that's family. You are in family. These people are putting their lives on their job, so you have to support them. Always, they know that you are on their back. What do you think about that, Chef?
Yes, totally. Totally, for sure.
So, there is a conflict. There is a conflict. And I saw that there is a conflict. What do? I go and stop the conflict and put it and immediately stop, or I watch the conflict and I wait until that stop to be sure that I understand the process. That's something that we have to put attention, isn't it?
Yes.
So if I saw two persons that they're getting in conflict, my natural instinct is to stop it immediately before it gets to big things, isn't it? But sometimes if there is a conflict, I want to see what's going on, because the majority of the time, you don't need to intervene. The people themselves fix the conflict by themselves if they have good attitudes. What do you think about that, Chef?
Yeah, for sure you need good attitudes to be able to deal with the conflict.
You don't want to be that paternalist figure that you are the guy who is going to resolve the conflicts of every person in the place, because people has to learn how to fix their own problems first before you get to you. Don't you think?
Yeah, you can't fix other people's problems like that.
So better to put a lot of attention and then keep follow up in what's going on. So when you see a problem and you see it there's a problem, maybe I'm gonna call and say, hey, what happened over there, and they're gonna come and say, hey, Chef, this is what happened, and this is what happened in the kitchen and there, and then so on, and the other person come and there was here and there was a discussion, and then how you deal it, okay, and then Peter come and talk to them and try to figure and calm down, and they talk between the three of them, and then give them the shake of the hand, and everything's okay, and they fix the problem, Chef. Okay, that's fine. They fix it, They don't need you to go to that place all the time and try to fix every person's problems. They can do it by themselves if the attitude on the people and the culture of the restaurant is like that, We help each other. We help each other. What do you think about that, Chef, guys?
Yeah, we all have to help each other out when we're dealing with the conflict.
So it's good not to take notes, If I saw something, I take a notes, and even that they fix each other, I put attention to that and be sure that it's not going to happen again, and put attention and do a little of follow-up to be sure that, yes, they really, really fix it. Because sometimes people talk and says, yes, and no, that's not okay. The people are still angry inside. And even that say, yes, still angry. It makes sense?
Yes, because it takes them a while to get over that conflict.
One thing that is very important, guys, I like to be, a person who understands problems, and I try to put in other people's shoes, isn't it? And be sure that I understand the natural human beings and all that, and help each other. But there's few things that they should be zero tolerance. And in a work environment like this, like harassment, racism, that kind of thing, it should be zero tolerance to that. Zero.
Totally zero.
So you don't want to have sexual harassment, any kind of harassment to anybody, isn't it? You don't want a guy who thinks he's smart, and he think he is, he can abuse of his power to other people. And there is a lot of that because of the stress. You have the guy who tried to sell his favors, and abuse of his authority within the workers. That's not good, I saw many things like that, touching improperly, and all kind of things, and oh my God, words coming in totally improper way, bad jokes that are really, really sexist and racist, and that shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen, And they say, oh, no, we talk like this in the kitchen. No, we don't. It's like, the guys, oh, that was a locker talking. No. There's no two types of persons, one in the locker and one outside. Or you are a good person or you are not. If you're a good person, you are a good person in every place, not just in the kitchen, not just outside of your home. You're just a good person, isn't it? So
that is so correct.
So it cannot be, I'm a good person, this, but I talk this because we're just in between friends. That's what I talk. That you show your nature. What you're doing is you're showing who you are. And and when you show who you're not, what's happened is you're gonna lose the trust of the people who are surrounding you. And when they don't trust you anymore, we have a problem. And when you have people on the working place and others don't trust on them, that is a problem, isn't it, Chip? And that is one of the things that's going to generate permanent conflicts. If somebody is harassing women, what's going to happen with all the rest of the females on the company? They don't want to talk with that guy. That is the guy, that is the guy who's doing that. Even that the person is silent, they will see by attitudes, So, since the beginning, these things, the zero tolerance, what do we do to be sure that you understand since the beginning of the work? We put all these things in a paper, in black and white, isn't it? Where we frame the restaurant. We call handbook. And that handbook we give to the employees when they come to work and says, hey, this is our policy. And the policy that we have here is we don't have tolerance for harassment, on any type of discrimination or racism. So there you are. So, but also the company has to follow the words with actions, isn't it? If we say that we don't tolerate this, it's okay, but we have to show that is true. If we say that we don't discriminate, we have to be sure that we don't discriminate, for sure, isn't it? So we have to have a space for handicapped people, on the restaurant, and it was amazing. Let me tell you this, in the school, we graduate in the school, a blind cook, yes or no, Chef?
Yes, we did.
A girl who was blind, she graduated from pastry, and now she's a pastry chef and she has her own business. So the limitations that sometimes we see in persons doesn't exist, because the person don't see as a limited person. They saw himself as persons, and that's how we should treat them, isn't it? Because
for sure,
all humans, we have our own limitations that are not only physical but mental limitations, don't you think?
I agree.
So if you talk about we really have an environment that we have zero discrimination, and that the business has to show that this is like that. We need to have ramps for disabled people and all kind of things that helps, and be sure that the clients is the same with the people that we work in, and we have a good communication people. And we treat everybody like human beings. So, how do we follow the conflicts? Sometimes we have to follow the conflicts through counseling, and then we go and we counsel people, and there is just a matter of talk, and we fix the problem, isn't it? But if the problem cross the line of the limits that we put it over there, then probably we have to establish discipline measures on the time. Don't you think, Jeff?
For sure, we have to have discipline measures.
Yes. So at some point, we have to be sure that we have to have some kind of punishment for people that really cross the line, that it shouldn't cross the line, isn't it? So like violate the trust, isn't it? With
yes.
Money, with things, violate the conflict, like somebody crossed the line of racism. And not just counseling,
it's termination.
It's ensure that there's consequences for bad choices. So
for sure.
every company needs to have that, you know. So sometimes after the conflict, there is a solution because that's how it works. No, like we talk about gorillas on the cages, isn't it? So if you have a gorilla in your company, then you have to put attention. You can put the gorilla in the cage and see if it works. But if the gorilla is still shaking the cage, you have to send the gorilla to the forest, isn't it? So that's how we talk, in those terms we talk normally on this area. So be sure that there is the conflicts that we can fix it has a limit. And those limits is the regular normal limits that any company would works with respect to other people, isn't it? So there's the basic human things that we have to follow. So one of the things that we have to be very careful, guys, is arguing with the customer, isn't it? So there's a guy, the server is there, and he lost the patient with the customer. And then the guy is fighting with the customer. So guys, what are we gonna do in a case like that, that you have a server fighting with the customer? That's the case.
So what do you want to, anybody want to talk about that?
Well, you don't want to argue in front of other people.
Yeah, but what happened if you are witness, you're there and you're witness, the guy is fighting with a customer?
I mean, it's really uncomfortable for like anybody who's watching. So, I mean, some people might leave or yeah.
So what do we do?
Find out what the problem is.
So what will be that?
What, after you find out what the problem is?
So Preston, what do you think?
Could you repeat the question, please, Chef?
So if you are in the restaurant, you are witness that the employee is fighting with a customer. What do we do?
If you're the boss,
I'd walk up to the conflict and pull the employee away from it pretty much immediately, and then talk to the customer pretty much and see what the problem is on their end and see if you can make something right there and then. And then after that's settled and done, that's when you deal with the employee and hear their side of the story, and you deal with their punishment or whatever has to happen after the fact. But that's not something you should deal with on the spot there.
You are completely correct. You are completely, you really hit the spot on that one. And thank you for your opinion. So yes, exactly, isn't it? What we have to do is stop it immediately and take it away, this person from the customer, immediately put it away and return and get the feedback with the customers and see what's going on. And immediately we have to get the supervisor, the director, whoever represents the restaurant in a higher level of hierarchy, you know, and bring it back to, because we have to be sure that that's not going to happen, isn't it? That what we say is, you know, sorry, because no matter what, there's no way that no matter what kind of thing the customer says, we shouldn't break to get to a point to get to an arguing with the customer. If you cannot handle it, get away. Other people will handle it, but you cannot fight with the customer. Don't you think, Chef?
you cannot fight, for sure not, because no one's going to win.
No one is going to win. You know, I have a problem one day. Let me tell you this. I have a problem one day that I have a server. And he's there. And this is what happened. This guy come and sat on the table. And the guy says, that guy make my sister suffer. This guy was an abusive partner of my sister. And now the guy is there and now it's my time, you know. So he says, you know, I want that table. And the guys who are working with them, they give them the table to guys to get at a service to the guy, and he want to do it. Man, you know, lucky for us, you know, the one of the managers immediately know that something happened and took the guy out. The guy was ready to kick the ball of the customer in the middle of the restaurant. Let me tell you, it was like that, you know, and
Wow.
he has his own reasons, and it was like that. And so the guy who is sitting at the table as a customer is a really bad person, but he's our customer, isn't it? So what do? We support the server and says, okay, we're gonna take this guy out, or we keep with the server, and I say, you know, sorry for that, and before we get that, we keep going. So what do we do? What do you think that we do?
Hold on, I think people are typing.
The people in the chat?
Yeah. What would you do? Would you let him kick his butt, or would you just serve the food and move on? Anybody want to jump in?
Just serve the food and move on. Make sure the different server takes care of that guest and keep the other server on the opposite side of the restaurant from him.
Yeah. You have to keep going, keep it on, and all that. So, and sometimes if there are witnesses or something like that happened, you know, and if there was a conflict between a employee and a guest, you know, then the manager has to go and do a lot of things to calm everybody, isn't it? Because the rest of the customers get into stress. The people who are at the table get into stress. So, that's the right time to start putting drinks on the table, don't you think, Chef?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people are saying just serve the food, just move on. There's no reason to create an issue. Thank y'all all for doing the chat. It's good.
So yeah, that's exactly what we have to do. We always have to evaluate the situation, you know. It should be that, you know, it's good to know what handling it. So it's always not to know, you know, what happened, you know, what happened there. And no, this is what happened, you know, you immediately, before you talk to the guy, you already know what's going on. But also, you know, sometimes that what happened is a wrong idea of what really happened. You really want to know and evaluate what's the real situation over there. And the only way that you can fix a problem is when you know exactly what was causing all that and how you can fix it, you know?
And just think about, and just to kind of look at, I think they call the angry customers now Karen, right? So you don't want to be one of those Karens out there that having to deal with those people. Sometimes it's best to just kind of move on and just kind of just move on. And
so one good example of bad attitude, guys, on the servers is the blacklist of bad tippers. Did you know that? That in the restaurants, when you have customers that come and they know who are the bad tippers.
The bad what?
The people who don't put tips on.
Oh, bad tippers. Gotcha. Bad tippers. Yes.
So because people live from the tips and the guys don't like to tip, they don't feel good about the guys that come in. They put it on the blacklist, and when they come, they don't want to. You deal with a lot of people. They don't want to get that guys on the table because they don't gonna get money from that person, isn't it? And the person who has in front of this person, there's a conflict over there, isn't it? I don't want to serve this guy is not gonna give me nothing, so you wanna be sure that the service is exactly the same, no matter if he's a bad tipper or a good tipper, because the reputation of the restaurant is in the middle. So we have that kind of conflicts that are external, but the people learn to know that no matter what, if there's a bad tipper, okay, we cannot do blacklist of bad tippers because there are people like that, and you see a lot, especially sometimes in old persons, that I think that they're still giving good tips, like my mother has 90 years old, and when my children come, she's still giving, hey, I give you $1, this is go and go to the movie and get a good girlfriend and do that, it's just like, okay. What they can do with that $1, but that's the generosity of the grandmother. So there you are. So we have to be sure that we try to evaluate the situation and see what's going on. And one more thing is you have to be sure that you are fair with the situation. When you act straight. You are not part of the problem, isn't it? If you put in one of the sides of one side of another, then the conflict is going to get worse. It's not something that is going to fix it, So if people are thinking, if you can bring them to the table. So there's a big error that we make when we do that. So there's conflict between two employees. Let's see, they are fighting, isn't it? For some reason. Then you call the first one, sit in the office. Then you call the second one, sit in the office. And then you take a decision. There is no transaction. You take the decision and then the employee goes. The anger is still in between them. You don't fix the problem. There's still mad between them. They're still hating each other. You don't fix the problem. So what's the real thing that happened, You have to sit on the table with the two persons in front of you and negotiate, a way to solve the problem. So you're going to be the mediator on that problem and be sure that you can solve it in a good way, so both sides get agreement on what's going to happen. But be sure that when that happens, you need to be sure that you understand the problem. Otherwise, you create a worse problem. Don't you think, Jeff?
Yes, for sure.
So being neutral is very hard to do. To be neutral, and when you have to get into two people problems, because it's hard. So don't argue. Don't get in the middle. Don't let it get into the middle. Even the persons want to get into the problem. If you have same guys in normal life, if you have friends that comes and talk to each other, don't start putting yourself on one side of another. Just listen. Don't talk. Listen. Don't talk. Listen. Let them go and talk. Don't start getting, invalidated for any circumstances one side or another. Very, very important.
Listening is so important.
Then, of course, we need to find a solution. We need to find a solution. We need to be sure that probably it's very difficult. It's a hard thing, to find a solution for a conflict. And we have to do it. And when we talk sometimes in the company, we have to be sure that there is clear about the solution. They're clear about the expectations that we have about that. And sometimes we have to put it in black and white, isn't it? Make them understand the consequences and all that. So sometimes we have to do that. Bring to the table, bring both parts. The agreement is that this is what's going to happen in the restaurant. These are the rules. You're not going to break it for these circumstances, isn't it? So people know exactly. So when people know the frames, they don't cross the lines. So we want to be sure that we have a good cultures of people that are in the place and they are not going to cross the line if you don't let it do that. So the culture is very important, isn't it? If we have an abusive culture, then they're going to be a lot of arguing inside. So that there's going to be a lot of things because I'm going to treat others the way that they treated myself.
And then the job is kind of gets a toxic environment, right? You know, I mean, with the abusiveness, you know, and all of that, it just becomes toxic, and no one wants to work or be around a toxic environment like that.
Exactly. So toxic environments are really, really bad, really bad, because it is nobody wants to work in it. It's not healthy for the people who are working over there. So it creates a lot of stress in people, and that stress it's going to get down the company. It's going to get down the business. So the other and more difficult thing is to argue with customers. That's the hardest thing, isn't it?
Yes.
So a person has a bad day and come to the restaurant and he wants to release his anger with the people on the restaurant. That's very common, Chef.
It is very common.
And make the life of the people who are serving miserable, because that person is miserable.
It's miserable. Yep.
So, and we have to be very careful, guys, that customers that is causing disruption, that is causing arguing on that, it's going to create a bad atmosphere for the rest of the customers that are paying to get into the experience. Don't you think? I don't want to deal with that, with a guy on the side of me that really are pissed on everybody. So how do we deal with this kind of things, guys? What will be your actions in this kind of situations? When you have a customers that want to release his anger with the serving people.
Anybody want to try
I would
that
think
one
maybe
out?
try to give him some drink specials and maybe try to calm him down.
Given some house drinks from the house, you says?
No, not like give him drinks from the house. I mean, just recommend like different drink specials and see if that takes his fancy, and what I'm saying, if that does, and see if that the drink wets his whistle, and if that puts his mind at ease. If it does, and that's cool. If it's not, then it might be something else, and maybe I mean, I wouldn't recommend asking him for it because it's probably going to unload on you. But I'm not really sure how. I'm guessing maybe ask your supervisor how to deal with that.
Yes, that's the answer. If you have a problem, you have a problematic customer that's going to start dealing with that, probably the best thing to deal is call the supervisor that has more experience and more level, and put the supervisors to handle that guest. So what happened with the guest is, if the guest gets that he can be bad with the server, but it's hard to be bad with the manager. It makes sense? You think it will help? Or you think that situation is not going to change?
I think it'll help because, for one, I think the one thing the customer is going to do is try to talk crap to the server, because he knows the server doesn't have any pull. But when the server goes and gets the manager, he knows the manager's not going to really, she's going to take a little bit of it, but then she has the power to either, hey, sir, you're wrong, or you're right. I understand she's always going to say you're right, you know what I'm saying, and in the customer service business, and that's a given. But you know what I'm saying, sometimes you know what I'm saying, it's better to get your manager involved and let your manager deal with it because they probably dealt with it a lot more than you have.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you, Bella.
I was just gonna say I think it depends on the situation.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes people are very angry and sometimes it's just a little mishap, and so sometimes it just needs an apology and sometimes people really want to yell.
That's true, completely. Someone else?
Lyric, do you wanna talk about what you wrote?
Sure. Which part?
Just talking about the guy. Had a guy. Yeah.
So I was working at ACL one weekend, and this guy was really agitated because him and his mother had just walked up the hill, trying to get inside of ACL. So I told him, I was like, "I'm sorry, sir, I can't assist you at this moment." He got agitated because I wouldn't call a cart for his mother to get them a cart back down to the other end of the opening. So in the process of this, he really just started acting a plum fool. He was like, if it was your mom, what would you do? And he was not to mention, he was probably 200 pounds or something, something like that. He could have easily carried his mama back down the hill, but he was like, "No, get a cart for my mom," and he really just acted a plum fool until all the supervisors showed up and just watched him act a nut. So we were sitting there waiting for him to just retaliate because he was really ready to fight at that point in time because we wouldn't call a cart for his mother.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah, what did the supervisor do?
The supervisor escorted him away. It took it was the supervisor and like 4 other people escorted him away. They literally took him away and was like, "Look, dude, you can't be doing that stuff. We understand that you tired and you hot, but you walked up the hill, so you can walk back down the hill. It's not our service to provide you a cart."
Yeah.
That was a good example. Thank you, Larry.
So there's a lot of things that can happen with that anger, when you have a customer that is angry. So normally you can see an angry customer since the beginning of the service, isn't it? The guy is gonna be uncomfortable with anything, he don't like the place where he's sitting, and then he start putting attention of every little things of the service. That is a red flag, don't you think, Chef?
Oh, totally a red flag.
So that is a red flag, and they have to put very little attention. So immediately, the person who's doing the service is gonna put the attention of the supervisor and says, "Hey, I have this problem with this person. We have a troublemaker over here." So and we want to be sure that table has special attention to be sure that everything goes good. So before they start getting hot, the supervisor come and start talking, make a little conversation, be sure that everything is okay. So he gonna go and socialize a little bit with the customer and understand what happened. If the customer don't really want to socialize and is completely closed, then the attention of the manager is gonna be close. The guy is gonna be more close of the table. So that guy is gonna be sure that the manager is watching him. So the guy also is gonna be. This guy is, if I cross the line, the guy is throwing me out, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
So he's gonna put more attention on that. So. But if they get to a point where there is an argument with the customers, what we have to do is immediately take the person out, talk to the customers, no matter if he has a reason, and be sure that we apologize, because the what is in the middle is the the reputation of the restaurants. And sometimes the rest of the customers that are watching that, they don't see the problem, isn't it? They just see the conflict. And when they saw the conflict, that caused a lot of stress. So there you are. So forget and apologize and move it out. And sometimes we have in restaurants what we call the blacklist, isn't it? Persons that are really bad in the restaurants that we don't let it get there. So you caused a problem on my restaurant. Okay, I let it happen once. I'm not gonna let you happen twice. It makes sense? So next time that the guys try to make a reservation, sorry, that's it. The restaurant is closed for that person. So that it happened? Yes, it happens. Did it happen to you, Chef, sometimes?
What's that?
That the restaurant closed the doors to somebody?
Oh yes, totally. Just people, especially with people that just want to complain. We had a few people that, we did nothing right. They, and they got belligerent with the servers, and then you just have to basically tell them you're not allowed in the store ever again. We're not going to be serving you ever. And do the best, but for sure, because I don't want my employees to be abused by people, nor do I want my customers seeing and having to deal with this atmosphere, a crazy atmosphere in our restaurant, because then people are going to go, I don't want this, and they're not going to go back to the restaurant.
Yes, that's completely right. So when there is conflicts also, and there is arguing, and there, especially between the employees, you be sure that you follow up, and whatever solution that we have, we follow up. We want to be sure that the anger is not there, that people, get out, kick, and they fix the conflict, and they don't keep with the anger, because if they keep with the anger, then it's bad. We have to do another measures. So let me show you something. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the professional advice on these kind of things. There you are.
I see it.
I'd like to talk about how a manager can effectively handle conflict between two members on their teams. This is a challenge that I hear a lot of managers bring to my attention, and it's usually when they find themselves in a bit of a tug of war between two employees. And oftentimes I encourage managers when they're in that type of situation to, empower an employee who's bringing the issue to their attention and to help them figure out how they can speak directly to the other employee instead of getting the manager involved. But what traditionally happens is that I find managers will listen to one side of the story from the employee that's bringing it to their attention, and then they'll go to the other employee, and in a roundabout way, they'll try to understand what the issue might be with the first employee that brought it to their attention. And there's often, the reality is that there's often two very different sides to the same story. And managers just find that they kind of get caught in the middle. And it's not a great place to be. And what I find that tends to happen is that most managers will continue to keep the employees separate instead of bringing them together and to collectively talk about what's going on. And so in this video message, it's a little bit longer than usual because I want to share with you a technique that I use with individuals that are in conflict, as well as I coach managers on how to handle bringing together two people that are in conflict with one another. And so let's take an example where you've got two employees that are at odds with each other. Let's say Jane is an employee that tends to be, she's working on a project with another employee named Tony, and they're working on getting a project completed. And Jane's natural style is to really look at ensuring that there's input from everybody that's involved and that's going to be impacted by this project. And Tony's preference is to focus on the plan and make sure that everything gets done on time and is delivered to the best of everyone's ability. And so they're at odds with each other. And as a manager that brings these employees together, what I encourage managers to do is a few things. I encourage them to not take an opinion either way, because they may feel more strongly about one viewpoint than the other. And when they're facilitating a conversation between two employees in conflict, it's important not to take sides, and it's important to hold both opinions with equal weight. It's also important to ask questions, open-ended questions that encourage a dialogue, and be able to listen very active listening, not only to the words and the emotions that are coming up, but also to listen behind those words and emotions. What's really going on? What are some of the things that are not being said that really need to come out? And as that manager, it's really, I guess, holding up the mirror and saying to the team, here is what I'm noticing in what you're sharing with me. So let's say you bring together Jane and Tony, and what I encourage managers to do at the beginning is to give each person at least a minute, just 1 minute actually, just one at a time, because I'm sure they can go on for a long time around what the issue is. But the question is, what's really going on? What's the issue from your perspective? And encourage each of the employees to use I statements, so speaking from their point of reference instead of saying the other person's name and that they always do this, or you're doing this and not that. Speak from my perspective, from I, and here's how I'm feeling, this is what I'm noticing, here's how it's impacted me. So give them a minute each to go through that and ask them, how is this making them feel? So give them another, 30 seconds to share about their feelings. And this is something that a lot of managers cringe at when I suggest this, because they're like, well, feelings, it might get really volatile. And the thing is for success to really occur in these types of situations, it's important to name and own the feelings that are in the room, right? So, it's important for us to not give that too much time and too much focus, but to just express that it's there. And once they're able to share that, then you want to ask them, what is really important to them about the task that's at hand. And, give them about 2 minutes each to share that. So for Jane, she might share about it's important to get people's perspective because they're being impacted by this project. And maybe she feels that Tony is not giving equal opportunity to everyone that should be spoken to. And Tony might feel that, it's really not critical to speak to everybody, and that it's important to get the work done because there's a tight timeline and the decisions have to be made, and not everyone needs to be involved in it, right? So you want to get a sense of what it is that each of them finds important. And you may also find, though, when you do that, that they may lay blame on the other person around not seeing things from their perspective. And so it's important to call out the blame if you're seeing that, because you want to be able to resolve the issue without blame. And you want to ask them, you know, if you are hearing blame, asking them if they're willing to resolve the issue without any blame and get commitment from them around that. The other thing is you want to ask them, what is it that they agree on? Because most likely they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. So where is their common ground? And this is where you may want to spend some more time to give each person some airtime around what is it that they agree on. And as that impartial party in the middle, you're wanting to summarize that. You're wanting to play that back so that they can hear that there is some agreement around the issue. And it could be that both of them agree that the task needs to be completed within the time frame that's allotted. They may agree that, you know, input is important, but it doesn't necessarily have to be from everybody. And so that's where you want to be able to summarize that. And then you want to be able to ask each of them, you know, what is it that they need and want from each other to resolve the issue? So from Jane's perspective, she might be saying, you know what, I just want Tony to make sure that we're considering, you know, these voices when it comes to making this decision and in terms of completing this project. And Tony might be, you know, asking and wanting from Jane to make sure that the project is completed on time and that there aren't any unnecessary distractions that are at play. So you want to be able to hear, you know, both sides, and again, look for where there's agreement. So you want to wrap that up by asking, okay, so what's the commitment that each of them can make to one another in terms of resolving this issue as a result of the conversation that's happened so far? And give them each a minute or two to summarize, you know, what can they each count on each other for in terms of getting to the core of the issue and working more effectively together. And I find that when managers are able to bring their employees together, even at the early phase or early tinge of where there's conflict, that just helps not only empower the employees to communicate more openly about the issues that are at hand, but also it helps them become more productive in terms of accomplishing the tasks that are at hand as well. And so I invite you as a manager, if you know this is something that is common for you, practice using this procedure and see how it works when you're bringing your employees together. And again, I recommend, you know, doing this in the early phases, not towards the end or the phases where it's really challenging, because I think it requires, I think, some additional skills that would need to be at play to make it successful. So there you have it. This is another way that you can use, another method that you can use when you have conflict between two employees on your teams. And I hope that you got value from today's video message. And if you like this message and you want to hear more, around these types of topics, then I invite you to subscribe to our.
So that was good, isn't it?
That was really good.
And I'm going to show you another one.
Today, I want to address for you what to do when you have two employees. In your restaurant who absolutely hate each other. Hey everybody, my name is Ryan Groff and I'm an author, speaker, chef, restaurateur, and the founder of therestaurantboss.com, as well as restaurantprofitandperformance.com. And I got emailed a question a couple of weeks ago from someone on my email list that said, I have two employees who absolutely hate each other. What can I do about it? So he and I went back and forth a little bit. And it turns out these two employees really did hate each other. But the root cause of hate always comes down to fear. So what I want you to do when you have two employees who aren't getting along well, or if it's gone so far as they absolutely hate each other like these two employees did, I want you to first get the mindset that this hatred always comes from fear. Now, once you know that, we can move on to the first step here. That first step is I want you to remove any bias or favoritism. Oftentimes, when two employees are bickering, it builds and it builds and it builds, and if it ever builds to this point of hatred, you have probably taken a side by this point, by the point that you realize that something needs to be done. You're probably seeing one employee as more right than the other. You're probably favoring one employee over the other. So what I need you to do is to remove any bias, to kind of take a deep breath, look at the situation objectively, and kind of start over in your head. And just kind of clear that away. Because the next step is going to be to sit down and talk with these two employees one-on-one. Don't let them know that you're talking to each other. Don't make it a big deal. Just pull the first employee aside and say, hey, I was wondering if you had a few minutes and we can talk today. What I want you to ask that employee are questions about their comfort level in your restaurant, in the business. Do they have a clear path to promotion? Do they know the difference between if they're doing a good job or a poor job? Have they been rewarded lately? Is there a system in place for any kind of reward? Do they know exactly what their tasks are, what their job duties and responsibilities are? These are the kinds of questions that you want to ask the employee. And if they're vague in their responses to any of these, then you need to work with that employee to make sure that that's clear. But that should also send up a red flag to you that other employees might be feeling the same way. So maybe you need to work on getting some systems in place for whatever weaknesses you see that that employee brought to your attention. So go through that with both employees and then sit back down with them one-on-one and address their concerns. If they don't know how to get promoted or they don't know if they're doing a good job in your restaurant, that's going to create this kind of fear inside, and they're going to take it out on possibly another employee. So that's the first step. The second step is at the end of that conversation to let the employee know that you're going to be on top of this. So you're going to be watching it like a hawk. And what I want you to do is I want you to give both employees accurate, firm, real-time feedback if you see any of this behavior happening. Don't brush it off and don't say, oh, we're working on it, and don't let it fester for any longer. If you see bickering between the two of them, I want you to stop it right then and there and give them both feedback. If you're in a meeting and one of these employees is doing some training for the rest of the group and the other employee, the ones that hate each other, are off in the back and he starts goofing around, and pull him aside as soon as that meeting's over and say, hey, I noticed that when Steve started talking, you started goofing around. Why is that? What happened there? And I want you to ask open-ended questions. Whenever you're delivering feedback one-on-one to someone, explain the behavior, then ask an open-ended question and see what their response is. Those open-ended questions like, why did you behave that way? Lets it open up, lets them express to you what's going on. And so again, I want you to deliver firm, precise, and real-time feedback to both of them during this sort of mediation period. And then the third step, if it gets to this point, if you haven't addressed it by this point, is to get the two of them in an office together with you. And when they're in the office together, your job is to facilitate the conversation, not to run the conversation, not to say this is unacceptable behavior, not to say if you guys don't fix this, I'm going to fire both of you. That's not what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do here is to get them to relate as humans to each other. So you want to ask questions like, when you act this way, how do you think that makes Steve feel? Or when you say things like that, how do you think that makes Bob feel, or Erica, or whatever their name is? And then let them use their words. Let them explain what they mean in front of the other person. And I think what you'll find is that when they're face to face with each other, and when you ask a fair and honest question like that, they're going to start relating to each other as human beings. And that should help you solve your problem. Again, the most important thing to remember here through all of these steps, through any conflict resolution, is that if two employees hate each other or if they're not getting along, it's always a root stem of fear. There's always some form of fear that is causing this to happen. Plus, this is going to be great for your sort of leadership muscles here. Conflict resolution is one of the best things you can do to become a great leader in your restaurant. Because remember, this is worth it. It's worth it when you have good employees to get through this, because your job is to manage systems and develop people. And this conflict resolution is a great way for you to work on your leadership and your skills in developing your employees.
Hey everybody, Ryan here. I really hope you enjoyed that video.
Another good video, Chef.
Yeah. That's a good example of how to fix the problems, isn't it? When you have problems, when you have conflicts between two people, you know, you have to go to the root and understand what is the problem so you can fix it.
I like using open-ended questions. I do like using that with dealing with conflict.
Yes, absolutely, Jeff, absolutely. So, so then it might be disciplinary actions for people that are needed. We talked a little bit before, isn't it? So,
Chef, you're not.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
So disciplinary actions, you know, are actions that the company, that the managers take on their hands to correct an employee, isn't it? And disrupt the idea that this can be a behavior that can be repeated in the future. So disciplinary actions you take when somebody cross the line of the ordinary work and get into the line of confidence, they get into the line of disrespect, isn't it? Other people and things that you don't want to handle. Cross to the lines of things that are completely prohibited to do it, you know, like harassment and things like that. So, and when that happens, it should be a direct communication. This is what you did. This is what you violate. And you know that there's going to be consequence to these bad actions. So you need to have a meeting with the person who do that and fear. So sometimes you need to ask first before you start not doing anything. Why? Why that person act in a way that, you know, become a harakiri, you know, become a trying to kill himself in the industry by doing something that is completely inappropriate. So it's like a kamikaze. That would be the right word. That the guy is a kamikaze, you know, trying to kill himself on the way. And this is something that sometimes it happens just because there is anger, just because there is a conflict. There is a conflict that has been resolved, and that take that person to this exam. That conflicts can be external. It's not part of the restaurant. The guy is on high level of stress that take that person to take that actions. You know, it's like extreme actions that he taken because something is happened, disrupt his life. The other is internal. You know. The guy has this. The guy he's just lost his mind and he lost his patience. He do something that was completely inappropriate, and he regretted. So, like, you know, he go and insult somebody very badly. You know, that's a bad thing, isn't it? If somebody go and insult you and give it bad words to a person, you know, trying to denigrate the person and do something like that because he was angry. But the anger comes from inside, you know, and it's something that is a behavior, and that has to be get into disciplinary action. So that thinks it's going to happen. So that's why the company, for these frames, we have a handbook. The handbook explains the restaurant policies to the employees, isn't it? The rights the employee has as well as the responsibilities. And also it has a section where they describe the possible disciplinary actions if that person crossed that line, isn't it? So depends on what type of actions the person do. It can be, you know, a verbal thing, you know. It can be a writing thing, or it can get to the completely to the top of the line, that is say to the person bye-bye. So sometimes the guy is regretted and says it's regretted. The guy needs to apologize. This is not going to happen, and we put attention on that. We don't we want to put a lot of a lot of I would say compassion on checking that, you know, that's a human being. It's not just it's not a tool. If we are going to fire somebody, that person that we fire is a human being. So it has to be enough reason to fire that person, don't you think, Jeff?
For sure. For sure.
So the company, the culture has to be sure that sometimes it's not necessary to get to the point that release the employee, but that employee probably is going to need to counseling, is going to need to really, you know, if that regretted, you know, say sorry to the people who's doing, you know, and be sure that we have a follow up on that, and maybe the punish is not going to be so big. You know, there's different reasons for that, you know, but there you are. Like says, a person didn't come to work, no call, no show. What would we do in this case? That's a needs disciplinary action, don't you think?
Yes, it is.
So what happens if a person doesn't come to work? The guy disappeared, no call, no show, 2 days. After 2 days, the guy come to work. What would you do, guys, in this case?
Thank you for showing up, but we don't need you anymore. I'm sorry, we already filled your shift. 2 days, no call, no show. I'm sorry, that's terms for termination, and that's job abandonment.
That's a good point. Who else? Who else? I would like to see the point of view of Trinity on this one. Trinity, are you here?
Hold on. Yeah, Trinity's here.
That would be nice to hear your point of view on this case, Trinity.
Let
Yes, can you
me.
hear me?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I would ask questions and like, you know, I would just ask questions like why that person wasn't coming in, and I guess I would dismiss them as well, as Joshua said.
Yeah. So it can be anything, isn't it? What happened if there's, you know, if there is a very bad thing that happened to that person who couldn't get there? It's not that the person is responsible. There really something bad happened. So the first thing is to know what happened. You know, what's going on. And the guy says, you know, oh, you know, my mother have a family. You know, this my father has a heart stroke, and I have to be with him. So for him, his priority was his family, isn't it? And you think that he will deserve to be fired if that happened?
No.
No, isn't it? So yes, so we have to know, be sure that we know, but we're not gonna get in the case that, you know, it become a very bad excuse and the guys start killing the whole family, and just because the guy went out and get drunk or do some crazy things outside. So we want to be sure that the people has credibility when they have to speak with you guys. So open doors are very important on these things. You know, you have a problem over there, you have to identify the problem. The concept, you know, the guy didn't come. Okay, why? Why that person didn't come? We have to find the problem before we start cutting. So I will not say, you know, as soon as they go come, sorry guys, you don't have the job anymore. I want to see what's going on first before it happens. So there you are. So what are the benefits of get the disciplinary action, guys? So we want to be sure that there is we protect the person against unfair labor practices, provide defensive documentation. So we want to be sure when we do these disciplinary actions that we have enough documentation in case that there is any claim. Don't you think, Chef?
For sure, you need to make sure you, you know, if there's no claim for it and all of that, for sure.
Because it can easily, the guy says, no, you fire me because you're racist. And I'm gonna go out and talk, you know, that you just fired me because you're racist. And the go guy and sued me and says, you know, okay, the guy fired me, has no reasons. It's just the guy is racist. So it should be something, you know, it should be a documentation. It should be something that show Trinity, yeah. We hear you.
Okay, so I would ask if it's like a first term thing, you know, I would ask questions, I would let it pass. But if it's like a repetitive thing where you don't call in and it just becomes a repetitive thing, then I would like, you know, dismiss that person.
Yes, I'm agree with you. Totally agree with you. And then I think I'm agree. I think it was, who was the person who did that? I think it was Joshua who expressed, or Joshua somewhere. Yes. So another thing that is disciplinary actions are good because everybody knows where is the path if you do things, you know, that cross the line. You will know exactly what's going to happen with you if you cross the line. So, and normally those things are put on the handbooks and all that, and there you are. Like, you know, we have like in normal restaurants we have the three. I already warned you one, and I want to warn you two, and the third time you're gonna be kicked out, isn't it? So there you are. And all these warnings are put in writing, and when they come in, says this is a warning, sign it. You know that I want to know that officially I warned you that this happened when you have repetitive options as the one that you were talking, Trinity. So, and another thing is, you know, the people who are in the business know that you're fair and you treat it all equally, isn't it? So you get accountable for your work. They know that you are there, and if something happens, you're gonna be in the middle over there. So another thing is we want to be sure is that the measures of the disciplinary actions are, you know, fair and objective. So whatever we do is because they are fair. We're not going to try to be you know, unfair with anybody. So there you are.
And I always quote the handbook because that's what because it's not what I think, it's what the handbook thinks. And if that's their job, if they're doing something wrong, and they have to be disciplined,
yes,
for sure.
So I'm going to show you right now the case of I'm going to show you the case of the gorilla case. So that's interesting. That's incorrect. Sorry for that, guys. Okay, this is the one. Tell me when you see it.
Yes, I see it.
I want to talk to you about gorillas. Now, gorillas, if you think about them, they're very strong, they're very powerful. They also, if in the wrong environment, can be very messy and chaotic. Well, every small business and growing business that I've worked with, without exception, has had at least one gorilla in it. A gorilla in a business is someone who is very strong, very powerful. They have lots of abilities, but they also create chaos and make messes throughout the business. Usually the gorilla is a family member or a close friend of the business owner or founder, or they've been there from the beginning. And because of their privileged position, they feel that they can bend the rules and sometimes even break them and get away with it without consequence. And honestly, they do get away with it without consequence. But the consequences to the business as a whole are profound. The employees see the double standard and it is demoralizing to them. It's also very frustrating and very stressful to the business leader because they know that they have this incredibly gifted person who's also making their life miserable at the same time. There are two things that you can do with the gorilla, and only two things. And I do them in this order. You can put them in a cage and you can release them into the wild. First, put them in a cage. That means give them guidelines, boundaries, systems, rules that they need to follow. The same rules that everyone else in the business follows, and hold them accountable for those guidelines. Now, some gorillas will shake against that and fight it, and then eventually turn into a very valuable employee again. But if they continue to fight against the cage, then it's time to release them into the wild. And what that means is that it's time, it's better for them, it's better for the business for them to leave and find other opportunities. With that exception, when I have seen businesses release their gorilla into the wild or successfully put a cage around them, the businesses start to grow and thrive, and the employees all throughout the company feel more motivated and inspired. Now the business can begin to operate according to systems and accountability instead of personality. I look forward to hearing your comments about gorillas. Please comment on this page, and I look forward to talking with you.
My wife says her chef. So guys, so penalties sometimes are not necessary, you know, penalties, it's when we put a penalty, we want to be sure that there is a surrounding lines and we put it inside. So why exactly we're doing that? And penalties is the last resource, isn't it? The last resource. So we don't rely on penalties because this is something that it really creates a bad atmosphere in the restaurant. The only thing that we want to do as a penalties is we want to release a gorilla into the forest. You know what I mean? Because there's a person that they don't get into the culture. This completely out. This completely disrupts it. They don't understand. They don't want it. It's abusing of the system, and it has to get out because otherwise it's gonna completely destroy the whole cultures that we are creating with so much hard work. There you are, guys. So. Saying that, two things, guys. Don't forget for tomorrow. 1.
You're not on the screen if you wanna.
Oh. Okay.
There you go.
Now we are.
Yes.
So to avoid discipline, guys, to avoid all these acts of disciplines, what are we gonna do? Isn't it? We don't want to be punishing people because that's the last resort, as I talk, First of all, what do we have to do? Create a culture of honor and respect. What you think, Chef?
Yes.
That's the main issue. So the other thing is that when I have to put rule, I try to put the least amount of rules. Too much rules is bad, isn't it? But when I make the rules, I engage the staff into the develop of the rules. So the conclusions that we have, the framework what we're doing, is with their help. So they feel that they are part of that, isn't it? Another thing, if you're a manager, don't break your own rules. Don't break your own rules, isn't it? So don't ask a person that you're trying to be correct with this and you are not correct. Don't break your own rules, because then the whole structure, the whole system loses the credibility. And when we have to put rules, simple rules, regulations, we don't want a whole book of regulations, because that will create a lot of stress into the people, because nobody wants to have micromanaging, somebody blowing in your back, isn't it? And the last thing, guys, is you always have to have the door open. The door has to be open to resolve conflicts, and people have to be free to come and talk. That's the main issue when we have to deal with conflicts. They need to be able to be free to come and talk, no matter who are. That is not a line of how do I say, the authority. No, you don't talk to me. You go first and talk to the. If he's the cook, he says no. You have to take first to the sous chef before you come and talk to me. Never. Always the door's open to talk with anybody who has a problem. It makes sense?
Yes.
So I hope you enjoy it today meeting. So tomorrow, guys, we have few things that I want you to don't forget to do it. A, you need to share your homework with Chef Cliff, of myself, create a name, create a concept, and the mission statement, isn't it? And I know that I already have like 10 that already sent me. Thank you so much. I love that you already work on that, guys. So like almost 1/3 of the class already sent me that information. And why we need this information? Because this is the base to start making the work with your menus, because the menus are going to be related with this concept that you have on the front. And maybe you keep that concept for the next class that you're going to go related with this. They're going to make you the whole project. Yes, Derek. I didn't hear.
Either or.
Yeah, on Google
It doesn't
you can
matter.
share it. That's no problem. Yes. That's the first thing. Second thing, guys, is don't forget you have to complete week 2, leadership knowledge check. That's the first one. To do that, don't forget to read it. Second, communication and time management knowledge check. That's the second one. And the third one, conflict resolution knowledge check. You have these 3 knowledge checks for this week, and that has to be done for tomorrow. So before, let me tell you this is a teamwork, is a net effort. So tomorrow, guys, before we start classes with Chef Cliff, we want to be sure that everybody done this work. If there are students that hasn't been done the work, we're not going to start the classes until all the knowledge checks are done. It makes sense? So we're going to put them to do it, and we have to wait for them to finish. So put attention, guys, that You have to come to class tomorrow and you have to do your knowledge check. They are very simple. They are not very complicated things. Just do your work, do your part. I work every day, 8 to 10 hours preparing classes and researching and looking for the best conferences, reading and putting a lot of in front of me to be sure that I give you, a good class. And what I need for you to do is just give me this feedback, please. Please be sure that you understand the class by doing these knowledge checks. So it's not a big of a deal, but I want you to do it. If you don't do it, then it's gonna start become, a snowball that is gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. And in some point, in week number 6, we're gonna put zeros and all these things. You don't see at the beginning on the class because we do it at the end of last week. And then you see if you haven't done your, let's see, your knowledge checks, and you have 80, you haven't done your knowledge checks, probably your grade is gonna get down to 60 or something like that.
For sure.
So you don't want that to happen. So that's why we keep it with you guys, and we sure that every week you do your part. So we get a very nice and final end. The day 29, you're gonna be very happy to do all that. So any question, guys? Did you enjoy the class?
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Very much so.
It was an emotional roller coaster.
Oh yes, it was because we talk about very sensitive
Oh,
things.
hold up. I have my mic on. Can we not say things like that when I'm on class? I'm sorry. Y'all have a good day, chefs. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye,
so much for your
guys.
comments, guys. We really appreciate your participation. That was awesome today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Have a good one, chefs.
Hey, you too,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Bye. See you tomorrow. What a great class, Chef.
That was nice, Chef. That was
Yes,
nice.
it was. I hope you have a wonderful day, Chef.
Hey, Chef, man, my bad, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? When we were talking about that earlier, you know what I'm saying? I just, you know what I'm saying, with my ex-wife, you know what I'm saying? She used to do that, you know what I'm saying, that cutting stuff, you know what I'm saying, back in the day. And
Yeah.
I used to see, you know what I'm saying, when she used to do that. And I used to see all the blood and all that.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't good, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't, it just really hit home, you know what I'm saying, whenever, you know what I'm saying, we was talking about it. And then when we hit that break, you know what I'm saying, I just had to, because I go on, I do bike rides, I do, like track races and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, that 15 minutes, you know what I'm saying, I hit like 13 in a straight sprint, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Just going. And, you know what I'm saying, it came back, with 2 minutes, you know what I'm saying? I kind of got it out of my system, you know what I'm saying? I just all that feeling and all that crap. And, I had to come back, you know what I'm saying, and deal with it, you know what I'm saying? It happened, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, and I dealt with it, and that's just what it is.
Yes, but what you say is very, very true. We have we have to be very open. Don't hide it. You have a stress, you have a problem. Don't hide it. Talk about it. We have to take it out of our system, because if we keep it in the system, that's when it's gonna hurt us very badly.
Yeah, you ain't lying, because that's what I used to do, because I didn't know anybody that used to deal with that, along with me, you know what I'm saying? Because I was married, I got married when I was 19. You know what I'm saying? I got married, I'm sorry, when I was 18. I had my daughter when I was 19. I'm 33 right now.
Okay, 32. Okay.
Yeah, so my daughter's 14, and she lives with me. I have custody of my daughter and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I'm saying? It was just, and it hit home. Like, it was just like right there, because my daughter seen it. I seen it. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like whoa. And then I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes back then, because when I got into the kitchen, you know what I'm saying, that's when I didn't feel like that. That's when I didn't feel like I wasn't, I didn't want to, not go to work. That's when I wanted to actually go cook, because that made me feel great. You know what I'm saying? Because when I get home, and, even when I get off work from 8 to 10 to 11 hours, I still come home and still cook, and still come and, help my daughter with homework and all that stuff like that. And it's therapeutic for me, because I get to still talk to her. she gets to still talk to me, and I get to help her. You know what I'm saying? You know, for that. But you know what I'm saying? It was just like a little bit like.
Let me tell you this.
But I mean, it was good because I still had to go through it, and still had to feel it again, and still had to do this lesson, and still had to realize other people go through that stuff too. You know what I'm saying? And I had to be understanding of them also, just the same way as I want to be understood the same way.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. It's something that we should be able to talk. Don't make a stigma of this. We just talk about it. It happened to us, and don't get to a point that it's going to affect our relation. Be violent in our home, drinking, things like that. We just have to take it out of the system in a way